how do I put it? It was like, what do you care about them? What do you care about those people? What difference does it make to you? Take care of your own life. Do the best you can for you and your family. What do the rest of the people mean to you? They don't mean anything to you. They're just serfs. They're just people. You know, what's the end goal? The end goal is to get everybody chipped, to control the whole society. They want a one-world government, controlled by them. Everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip.
Good evening, peasants. It's Rise Above.
Rise above, generate, rise above, extinguish fear, rise above.
It's not a normal episode of Rise Above, though, is it, Andy PG? It's no normal episode of Rise Above tonight. Let me welcome straight away one half of the Sheep Farm boys. Welcome, Dom.
Good evening.
Oh, those
sensual.
sensual tones.
I'm just warming you up, boys.
Direct from the sheep pen. How's it going, mate?
All right, mate. Yeah.
So it's a collaboration tonight, and I'm about to hand over the reins to the trusty guys at the Sheep Farm stable. What's on the menu tonight, fellas? Apart from rabbit and lamb.
Yeah, we're going to go deep. Not as deep as Schwab went then when we saw that meme with his fist. On the Slumdog Millionaire, Rishi Sunak.
Rishi Sunak.
Yeah. Who I knew nothing about. Before we started, I started doing this research. I've actually researched most of the cabinet, actually, so it's not just him that I've done.
That's kind of your speciality, that, isn't it, Tom? Just researching the politicians there.
Our Christians said they're turning to Raymond Babbitt.
No, Dom's just jealous of Sunak's hair, by the way. You see how silky black his hair is? It's beautiful.
I hadn't even heard of this guy, right?
He has got good hair,
I didn't
mate.
even pay any
It's
attention
beautiful.
to this guy until we had Human Vibrations on our show last year, and she pointed out when the book that he was
The
holding
briefcase
under
changed
no,
colour.
it wasn't a briefcase, it was a folder he had under his arm. Yeah, it was when
this
it went
folder
bright
here.
green. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just changed bright green. I was like, oh, okay, this guy's obviously doing some shady shit.
He's into something. It's that old conveyor belt again, where, and you'll see. It'll be easy to see. I know.
Yeah, don't ruin it, Tom. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, you'll be jumping up and down, I suppose. Well, you might not be after a couple of them bifters, but you'll be laid back, chilled.
I'll give Word Nerd another chance.
Come on, Word
in the
Nerd.
chat.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, that's better.
There we
Perfect.
go.
Welcome back, Word Nerd.
Word now, what's up?
Did a Greta reset. What's up, Andy? What's up, everyone?
Yeah, you need a Greta reset sometimes to sort out your audio wear. That's what you need.
That's it.
Hi, Word Nerd. You all right, mate?
Hey, good evening. How you doing, Dom?
All right, mate. Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to reset the tech.
I can't say anything about always being late.
Somebody's calling me Mowgli, and our Christian in last Sheep Farm called me Mowgli. Yeah, he said that's what my nickname were at school, Mowgli, from Jungle
was it?
Book. So
Had a massive head of black shiny hair.
yeah. I look like Mowgli, which obviously, yeah, did wonders for my confidence. So, should we crack on?
Yeah, listen. I'll hand over to you. We're ready to get down to business.
This is going to be quite nice tonight.
Yeah, it's great. I'm just sitting back, enjoy the show.
Don't think you've got nothing to do. We'll have picture one on. We've got picture one on now. No, not that one. Sorry, go back. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
one.
Yeah, picture one. That's picture one.
Dom, just in any time throughout this presentation, if you want me to Google anything, just let me know and I can get it straight up.
All right, buddy. Yeah, and if you want to Google anything while I'm talking, if it makes sense, just interrupt anytime you want if you've got something you want to say in a point, just like our Christian does all the time. Yeah. All right, everyone. Welcome to this special edition of Sheep Farm's Meet the Flockers on Rise Above Live on Friday night. I'd like to thank the guys for inviting us to do this. It's a real pleasure, and it's something different, I suppose. And with me tonight, drinking his French mouthwash, is our Chris.
Mouthwash.
What is it tonight, Chris?
Malbec fire.
It's just getting boring, man. You need to,
It's one of my favourites. I like Malbec.
you need to crank it up a bit.
I'm not
chewy
going to drink.
Malbec.
Yeah, I'm not going to drink something I don't like. Yeah.
You're not sucking cork again tonight, are you?
A Chilean Malbec.
Lance had to wake you up last time. So go easy. Also tonight we have with us the esteemed members of the Anti-Covid Politburo, Double L and Andy PG and Word Nerd, I think, is with us at the moment. I think Master Lee is going to be joining us later.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Hello there.
Yes. Tonight we're going to be going knee deep in sheep shit with the Slumdog Millionaire himself, MP Rishi Sunak. Like always, we'll only use information from the mainstream. And it's when you see all this stuff in one place that it starts making sense. And we will no doubt, with these guys here, we'll definitely be going down some deep, deep rabbit holes. Like the fact that Sunak works for the Rothschild Trust. I went conspiracy loony then. I mean the Treasury, otherwise known as the Bank of England. Then there's his billionaire father-in-law, who is best mates with Sir Bill Gates. And he's also got his own glass pyramid at his office too. So, just who is this flocker? Can we have video too, Lance? If you've got it there.
Yeah, video 2. Let's see.
And we'll just watch this for a couple of minutes. Sorry, I've got to put you through this.
I hope this is the right one.
Rishi Sunak is a money man. At school, he loved economics. At Oxford, he shunned student politics, preferring the university's investment society. He spent his 20s in the city with the likes of Goldman Sachs. Becoming an MP in 2015, days before his 35th birthday, he used one of his first speeches to issue a plea to be careful with the cash.
Under this government, Britain will live within its means. No more irresponsible borrowing. No more spiralling debt at the taxpayer's expense. No more passing the debt to the next generation. Today, I am making available an initial £330 billion of guarantees, equivalent to 15% of our GDP.
But who is the man whose briefest of spells at the Treasury has already led to him being tipped as a future Prime Minister? Each new round of economic measures he has calmly announced during the crisis has brought inevitable expensive calls for more, but it also fuels speculation that he might one day make the move from number 11 to number 10. Politics, in fact all of life, is too unpredictable to be sure what the future holds, but you wouldn't bet against.
Narayana Murthy, founder of the huge software company Infosys, is known as the Bill Gates of India.
It's very easy to lose hope in this country. It's very easy to set your aspirations low in this country.
Now, what about your own son?
Well, my son, he probably wanted to do computer science at IIT. To do computer science at IIT, you have to be in top 200. And he couldn't do that, so he went to Cornell instead.
Can you slip somebody a couple of rupees and say, come on, get my son in?
No, never.
Impossible?
Impossible. There is no corruption. It's a pure meritocracy.
Sorry to have to put you through that, guys.
There's no corruption. What's going on with that guy's face, man?
That guy's got eyes like Mad Dog's bollocks, hasn't he?
Yeah, you could have bought some better glasses. Surely you can afford them. Like what?
You don't know where to look. You don't know where to look at his teeth or his eyes going.
No, it's what we call up here Leeds Bradford eyes. One eye's looking at Leeds, others looking at Bradford. Before we start, I'm going to ask Double L before, and I'll come round to all of you. Have you got anything to say? I know you'd say you didn't know this guy, but just based on them videos there, is there anything you want to add or before we crack on?
I mean, the bit at the start where he was saying, yeah, we won't pass on the debt. We were just looking at each other. It's like, was this guy even attempting to lie? He wasn't even attempting to lie. It was like he was mocking people.
Yes. He
He's
knew.
That was before
he
became a high-level
Chancellor.
weasel.
Yes. Yeah. What about you, Andy?
Well, I've said this before. Like, these people don't even talk like us. Do you know what I mean? They don't even talk like the people they're supposed to be so in touch with and representing. But
yeah,
you know,
they're a million miles away.
You know, he's just another smarmy, like grinning from fucking ear to ear.
Yeah,
and it's just, you know, he's just greasy, mate. He's like Matt. He reminds me of Matt Hancock.
Well,
like,
it's strange. I mean, Chris has got something to say on that, actually, hasn't you? Because
what's that?
Well, when we did Hancock, he were obviously powdering up to his in-laws.
Married into his in-laws. He's like his butt sucking them in it too.
And this guy's a very similar
similar kind of character.
Yeah.
They're just very greasy and like fucking slimy.
Yeah. I know I always say it, but if these people walked up to you, just walk in another direction, wouldn't it? You wouldn't entertain a conversation with this guy, would you?
Yeah.
I don't even think these people would be in the same vicinity of us for that to even happen.
No,
these guys are going to go to their private little gentlemen's clubs and sip their fucking scotch on their mahogany wingback leather.
They wouldn't
chairs.
come within 50 meters of peasants like us.
No, Jesus.
He's literally the most weaselly one, though, isn't he? Just even that little lift.
He's gangly as well. Do you know what I mean? He needs to lift some metal.
Yeah, he's only about 3'6". He's a pygmy. But
really, is he short?
He's short. Yeah, he's only. I'm saying 3'6". He's over 5 foot. But he's,
why does he seem tall?
He's a munchkin. It's his neck.
Yeah,
he's got a swollen neck.
It's like an optical illusion, right?
His
neck makes him look tall. Yeah.
He's got a swollen neck. So on his website, slumdogmillionaire.com. Well, it isn't real. It's RishiSunak.com. Sunak talks about the rags to riches story. And that seems to be a theme, doesn't it, Chris, with all these morons that, I had it hard and yada, yada, yada. And it helps us all, it makes us feel sorry for them and helps sort of connect with every class, if you like, so we can relate to their boy or girl done good sob success story, doesn't it?
Humanizes them a little bit.
Yeah,
kind of.
It's like Richard Branson. Like, I grew up on the council estate.
Yeah,
I bet you didn't.
No, he said he was adopted. He was adopted. Just happened to be adopted by millionaires, didn't he?
Yeah, it was an estate, but not the estate we think of.
No,
800 acres.
I grew up in a
like
tough
that,
country estate.
Yeah.
I only had one lake in per 50 acres. My estate.
In Slumdog's case, he talks like he came sort of from the sewer, and with his ratty as he might have. But the fact is, whether his parents went without or they still managed to pay 28 grand a year for him and both of his brothers to attend private school, each, that is, by the way, Winchester College. So it wasn't that poor. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to private school. People get the opportunity. I've no problem with that.
I'm saying I am.
Yeah, well, it's one of those ones, isn't it, Andy, where I get a bit of grief for taking piss out of people who go there. But the kids can't help going to a private school. It's not their fault. No, it's how they turn out at the end of it, isn't it? They're not all satanic, murdering morons, are there? Just a few of them.
Well, no, they tend to keep that in the family bloodline, but we'll get to that later, I'm sure.
Yeah. But what gets me is that the insulters with the sob story, and they're just plainly lying. If you can afford to pay 28 grand a year, just say I can afford to pay 28 grand a year and tough. You know what I mean? That's fair enough for me. At least it's honest. Anyway, on his website, he said, I grew up watching my parents serve. I can't do his list, sorry. So our local community with dedication. My dad was a GP and my mum owned her own and ran her own local chemist shop. So you got Armspear Central there, haven't you? Straight away.
Right. So they were basically drug dealers.
They were basically drug dealers. Yeah,
legal drug dealers.
I have been fortunate enough to enjoy a successful business career. I co-founded a large investment firm. It's not exactly true, a bit like Nadeem Zahawi, where it was sort of a bit wishy-washy around edges about him setting these companies up, working with companies from Silicon Valley to Bangalore. Then I use that experience to help small and entrepreneurial British companies grow successfully. But they're not saying that at a minute.
Yeah, right.
From working in my mum's tiny chemist shop to my experience building large businesses, I have seen firsthand how politicians should support free enterprise and innovation to ensure our future prosperity. Bollocks.
Bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. My parents sacrificed a great deal so I could attend good schools. I was lucky to study at Winchester College, Oxford University, and Stanford University. I mean, he struggled there, I've got to say. It was real hard, that. Wasn't Sallandine Nook in Huddersfield, anyway. I met my wife, Akshata, I won't say that with a few drinks down, in California, where we lived for a number of years. What is missing out there is that she owned a mansion in California. In February 2020, I had the honour to become Reichs-Chancellor. In my spare time, I enjoy keeping fit, cricket, football, and watching movies. So, a question back to you guys. We know money, success, and power always play a part in the Faustian contracts by hooking these people into the system and getting them to sign that deal with the devil. But once hooked, it's difficult to escape, even if you have that moral wake-up, which I'm sure some of them do, going for reprogramming. But do you think all these people are... One question me and Chris always asked, do you think these people are watched all the way through their career? And then when the button's right, we had that with Boris, you know, it looked like he'd been watched and sort of nurtured all the way through.
Groomed,
and then
maybe.
Groomed is the word, yeah.
Well, they've all got handlers, haven't they? It's all a hierarchical system. So they've all got each one. Rishi will have his handler, and then his handler will have a handler who's above him. In my opinion.
It's strange.
So yeah, I'm not sure how long each handler is with them or not. Like you said, I don't know if it's the same person all their life or the majority. From my research, it's normally one of the family members which is their handler.
Right.
If it's not a family thing, I would say that these people are generally earmarked when they get to college or university.
Let's not forget how satanic some of them might be, and they just fucking like doing it.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Some of them
just like Matt Hancock. We said this before.
Yeah,
like
Matt
Hancock when he was making all the Divock announcements before he got shunned to the back benches, he was almost enjoying himself every time he was doing it. Whereas you know Chris Whitty, like we said before, looks like they've got something over him and he's being forced to do it because he doesn't look like he's having a good time.
The difference we worked out though was like this guy and Wancock, they weren't born into it and bred through it like Johnson and Witter.
Yeah,
Johnson
was told from a very young age that he was going to be prime minister. Yeah.
Well, also they go through these schools, and it's basically to lose any empathy, turn them into psychopaths, isn't it? So they've got nothing left by the time they get there. But then, like you said, Dom, this guy and Wancock, they're like the brown shirts out there. They're the ones who have signed up.
Good point. Yeah,
you know what I mean. They're the ones who've signed up. The other ones.
I'd say another thing as well that we keep seeing a pattern of, that somebody like Zahawi, who seems like a sort of middle minister, if you like. When he was chairman of Le Circle, he's probably higher up than these guys. You know, it's like having a sergeant in control of a big brigadier general.
Yeah,
it's a strange mix, you know. And that, so
he were definitely more involved than any.
Yeah, because the government's only one level of it. These guys have got they sit on boards of think tanks and huge mega corporations and conglomerates that theoretically will be handing down orders to the government through the think tanks and the pressure groups, etc., etc. So you're absolutely
100%.
right. There could be like a massive power differential on one level if you're looking at it on a government level. Yeah, for sure.
So third picture, please. We missed second one, but not to worry. Third one will be all right. So
this one
in 2021, Lord Ashcroft wrote Slumdog's biography. The new biography of Rishi Sunak paints a picture of him as a popular sports-mad child in Southampton. A review by the Sunday Telegraph said Sunak was like the political equivalent of the Duchess of Cambridge. We are presented with a middle-class boy, done good, whose ambition has never turned into arrogance and who appears motivated by a genuine desire to make Britain a better place. A principled and decent man who has so far avoided putting a foot wrong, even when wearing the wrong-coloured wellies.
Sounds like such a lovely guy, doesn't he?
Oh, he's awesome. And so now he's got now he's like linked to royalty. So this book was called Going for Broke: The Rise of Rishi Sunak. You could have just said The Rise Above of Rishi Sunak. Available at all charity shops for 50p. Who quotes? Some of his neighbours gave him quotes saying he had lovely manners. And he was sports hero was Matt Letizia. Won't be a minute because he's speaking out, isn't he, Matt Letizia? He's one of them guys that is speaking out. Fellow, this is where it got interesting for me because this was similar sort to Johnson, and it was sort of that same as that video. Fellow Stroud pupil Ollie Case says he was someone that was talked about. More nonsense. The teachers would say he's going to be prime minister.
What?
Exactly. Is at school and they're already saying it's going to be prime minister.
It's the common thing though with people that become prime minister. It's like he was told his whole life he was going to be prime minister.
Yeah, well, Johnson said that. We heard his Johnson's sister saying he wanted to be prime minister. The nanny said he wanted to be prime minister and he was going to be prime minister. And yeah, so it's the same
selected,
same sort
not
of
elected.
Exactly, selected, not elected. Interesting. The writer of Going for Broke is Baron Ashcroft. So he's not just a normal author, this guy, who is a British Belizean businessman, pollster and politician. He's the former deputy chairman of the Conservative Party. And if you don't know who Ashcroft is, I'm going to play a short. I'm not going to play that short video actually because I was going to put it on, Lance, but it had a copyright on it. So I tried it before we put it on a different channel.
Cheers
yeah,
for that. Yeah,
I'm going to say put it on. We don't need to put that on. But Lord Ashcroft is someone who doesn't like paying tax, but he's a major player. Ashcroft Associates was set up in 1972, and he has got an estimated fortune of 1.25 billion. Yeah, wow. So he's not just an author. You know, he's been given the task, a bit like Coogan's been given the task. He's up there. He's been given the task of writing a book. He might not have wanted to turd polish Sunak. Yeah, to make him look good.
He's the spin doctor.
I sit there fighting and just think, I know, I'm going to write a new book. I'll write about Sunak because he's really interesting. There's no way.
I really like this guy. I really like this guy. He's going to help everyone.
Yeah, and this sort of his peerage was also controversial because he's a tax exile. So he's a tax exile. This is really taking the piss. Writing a book about the Chancellor of Exchequer who collects taxes.
They're throwing in the piss tape there as always, aren't they?
That is the black magic nonsense in it, where they're really taking the piss.
That is the pinnacle of cogitism, isn't it? Like, the Chancellor of the Exchequer is like a billionaire tax exile.
I've just noticed his tie as well is checkered, black and white checkered.
The Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Exchequer, yeah. So Lord Ashcroft, one of the Conservative Party's biggest donors. This is a story in The Guardian. I just pulled it out just to go through it. Faces fresh questions over his offshore affairs after the Paradise Papers revealed a previously unknown trust sheltering his vast overseas wealth. Scores of emails and financial statements chart the inner workings of the Bermuda-based Punta Gorda Trust from its creation in 2000, just after he became a peer. The documents run until 2016, when the offshore law firm Appleby, which acted as a trustee, terminated the relationship, a decision questioned at the time by Ashcroft's representatives. The value of the trust fluctuated, but when it was leaked, it was estimated to be worth $450 million. So he's got tax-free $450 million, and he's writing about the Chancellor of Exchequer's life. And he actually, it's just an absolute piss take, to be honest with you. Is that why ain't he
any better than that, does it?
No, it doesn't get better than that. I found it quite funny, sadly. I mean, so we'll have picture 4, please.
No problem.
I mean, Chris talks about journalists having more, he calls it clout, than MPs. You know, the secret clubs like we were just talking about, that's given, like Le Circle and Kissinger. He was part of the Knights of Malta, I believe, and things like that. And it is the sergeant having more power than the brigadier general, or someone like, say, Savile having more power than the Queen, type of thing.
Yeah.
But this guy, this Ashcroft, is ingrained into the establishment. And you should have seen that film if you can find it. I'll send it on to you. He's getting chased around by Panorama, this Ashcroft, asked about his overseas funding, and he's just running off. And this guy's following him all over.
He runs away.
He runs away, literally runs into the toilets. Yeah.
What a weasel.
An absolute weasel. But that is like, he probably didn't want to do something, and they've now said, we can expose you, and this is how we're going to do it, so you better do as you're told.
In the arm. Yeah.
Exactly, yes. Now, whether it were for this or for something else. But yeah, the narrative, this is all of this, the book, the stories, just all narrative building, which again, we see that in all of Stanley Johnson did it for Boris, you know, and Boris would be writing Churchill books, making out his Churchill and all this carry on all the way through. You could tell he was going to be Prime Minister, couldn't you? And you could just tell he was going to be Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
Absolutely.
And so, any thoughts before we crack on?
No. I'm really enjoying this. This is
no. A lot of this is news. Is news to me. So I'm just sitting back and taking it all in at the moment. It would make perfect sense. I mean, you're painting a picture that we've heard before for people that have stepped into the limelight. All of a sudden, you know, they've got these very powerful people behind them. These Kissinger, Zabriskie in the US,
and they come out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Come out of nowhere.
Always come out
like
of
Obama.
Nowhere.
When did the book come out?
Yeah, just like Obama. Pardon?
How old the book is it?
It's this year. I think it was this year, sometime early this year.
Because I mean, most people have never heard of him up until the last year and a half, maybe. So I mean, planning a book and writing it must have started ages ago. What position he would be in right now?
Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't come about quickly, does it?
No, you don't write it in a week. If he
interviews, all that crap.
If he wrote it,
yeah.
Ashcroft might just put his name there.
Yeah.
Because he's wrote a lot of biographies which are a bit strange. So on the 13th of February 2020, Sunak was parachuted in from nowhere, like we just said, to become Chancellor. Sunak was a supporter of Johnson's campaign to become Conservative leader, and he replaced Javid in February 2020. This didn't happen by chance. He was strategically placed in that position, and because he's another mediocre MP. I mean, who is he? It just is nothing, is it? He's an empty seat, really. He had a job to do for the bankers. In his first year of the DIVC, Slumdog oversaw the borrowing of £330 billion from the Rothschild. 330 billion. Yeah, that was in the first year. Sorry, 330 billion.
Yeah, 33 though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. From the Rothschild Trust.
That's the minimum spend. That's the minimum borrow you're allowed to get with the first deal with the double R. Like, sorry, we start our balance at 33 billion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the first number we on this blankety blank checkbook and pen. I mean, are we expected to believe this inexperienced rat-eared pygmy negotiated that size of a loan within weeks of just getting the job? I mean, that doesn't happen either. Not like writing the book.
No way.
You just don't go and write a check for 330 billion to someone like that. It doesn't work. And another 200 billion this year. So it's around about a cool 500. It's over 500 billion.
Half a trillion.
Just half a trillion. But he's been working for these banking cabals. In fact, he has a history working for these people. He has been chosen and placed on this yellow brick road. The tracks were greased from his early days. He was being primed, ready to be part of what we're witnessing today. As an example, when Sunak was selected as a Conservative candidate for Richmond, remember, he's wet behind the ears, he's never been in Parliament, in October 2014. The Richmond seat had previously been held by Baron William Hague. He's a strange character as well, but anyway. This seat of Richmond is one of the safest Conservative seats in the UK and had been held by the party for over 100 years. So it wasn't going to lose, was it? Let's face it. You could have put one of us lot in there and we'd have still won. Why was this top position given to Sunak, a wet behind the ears, big ears, but wet behind the ears MP?
Yeah, that should be given to an old boy as a prize.
Someone with experience.
To see out their tenure. Someone that
you would
can't
have thought
fail.
so, wouldn't you? Yeah. And we saw the same with Blair. I don't know if you remember the Blair one. Blair was given a similar seat that he won to get himself into the Labour government. And this, to me, is just another sign of people wanted this moron in the hot seat. And if 2014 was Sunak's entry into politics, what did he do to warrant such preferential treatment? Well, like all the people research, always comes back to eugenics and population and the people that surround them. It always comes back to that. Picture 6, please, Lance.
Okay.
Nice smiling face. I want some info off Chris here, and you guys might know a bit about this. When Sunak went to Parliament for the first time, he swore his oath on the Bhagavad Gita Sanskrit, not the Bible, Bhagavad Gita Sanskrit, which is a 700-verse Hindu scripture that is part of the Mahabharata, dated to the second half of the first millennium BCE, whatever that means, and is typical of the Hindu synthesis. It is considered to be the holy scriptures of Hinduism. The Gita is set in a narrative framework of a dialogue between Pandava prince Arjuna and his guide and charioteer Krishna, an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. And if you look at Lord Vishnu, you'll see it's like a god of war or something like that. At the start of the Dharma Yuddha, the righteous war between Pandavas and the Kauravas, Arjuna is filled with a moral dilemma and despair about the violence and death the war will cause in the battle against his own kind.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
and so you've got that book, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah. Well, it's based in the Bible. I would
Yeah.
say. I mean, I might think someone by saying that, but that's pretty much what it is about Gita.
So is that they could just pass that off as like because it's his
religion? Yeah,
religion,
yeah.
ideology.
But I'll come to something further down that'll be quite interesting. So Picture 7, please, Lance. Sunak was born on the 12th of May, 1980 in Southampton.
So he's a Taurus.
Yeah, to Punjabi parents, Yashvia and Usa Sunak, Taurus. Interestingly, May 12th is the 132nd day of the year and 133rd day in leap years, which I think he was born in a leap year. Yeah, he was.
133rd,
yeah, 133rd day. He was born in 1980, which was a leap year. I always remember because Olympics are always in a leap year. And 233 days remain until the end of the year.
So 2 double 33 there.
Yes, which is 60. Yeah, we don't have to say it, do we? He is the eldest of 3 siblings. His father, Yashvia, was born in Kenya, and his mother, Usa, born in Tanzania. They are both Punjabi Hindus. Just to point out, Hinduism, and somebody will correct us, I'm no doubt at some point on this, and Judaism are among the oldest existing religions in the world. The two share some similarities in interactions throughout both ancient and modern worlds. Efforts to compare Hinduism and Judaism were popular during the Enlightenment era in the process of arguing the deistic worldview. Judaism has been compared with Hinduism. Jews never faced persecution by Hindus or vice versa. The creation of Israel as a Jewish state by Zionists was supported by Hindu nationalists. In 2008, a second Hindu-Jewish summit took place in Jerusalem. There are some who profess a belief in both religions. They regard themselves as Hin-Jews, Hinjews. No, yes. The reason I added this is that this guy's Punjabi Hindu and he's a banker. This info was taken from mainstream wiki, so it's I've got to take it at face value.
Are you suggesting that he's a Hindu?
Well, in fact, that some call themselves Hindus, I find it striking given his position. Yeah, the fact that it exists, yeah, as the front man for the Bank of England. His father, Yashvia Sunak, as I say, was a GP, and his mother were both Punjabi Hindu. Punjabi Hindus are an Indo-Aryan group who are adherent to Hinduism and identify linguistically, culturally, and genealogy to Punjabis. The Indo-Aryan group is a rabbit hole. I'd like to do some genealogy on Sunak, Patel, and Javid, who is also from Punjab, even though he's from Pakistan, and he's able to hold a conversation in broken Punjabi is Javid, I found out. Indo-Aryan bloodline is a very fascinating subject. It would not surprise me if their lineage goes back somewhere to Indian royalty or the British Raj somewhere. But throw in the mix of the Hindu factor, and presto, we've got a banker. Yeah,
interesting.
A total banker,
an absolute grade A banker.
Yeah, a total banker. But it's quite interesting when you look at the backgrounds there, don't you think? I know you're interested in stuff like that, guys, but
no, absolutely,
it does interest me. You look at Hindus. I mean, I've never heard of anything like that.
I've never heard of it.
Well, it's quite interesting because if what we're told about the Nazis and the Third Reich, they were quite, because the swastika is like a Hindu symbol.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
You know, they went to Nepal to meet with Hindu leaders there to allegedly do whatever they did. Whether they went to the inner earth or met the tall white guardians or whatever happened.
They gained something, whether it was a physical thing or knowledge or some, you know.
Yeah, so the Nazis had an affiliation with Hindus as well, which is quite strange when you think about Hindus and Nazis, and then it starts to get really complicated, and you can't usually talk about that.
Well, again, when you look at the links back to the British government, there's what's the arms spear passport company called Entrust? Entrust, is it? Yeah. Well, the family that runs that are the stepchildren of Goebbels.
Wow, really?
Yes.
And he implemented the some pretty
we know that
isn't it interesting?
Action T4
how the Soviet Union, the rollout of it is actually following what happened in World War II.
Yeah,
Austria first. They're going to be the first ones to literally say,
"Wow,
let me see your papers." For non-Brittany people. Apparently, second, it's going to be Germany.
Right.
Okay, so it's in the right order so far. France and Italy look like they're on the verge of it. Oh, and Poland.
Poland, yeah.
It was either Poland or Czech Republic. I think it might have been Czech Republic.
Czech Republic, yeah.
Yeah, Czech Republic. So if I'm not mistaken, isn't that the first countries that Hitler invaded and basically would have enforced the rule of let me see your papers when you go outside? I mean, it's those countries, those 3 or 4 countries, maybe not in exactly that order, but certainly Austria first.
Wow.
Yeah.
One Hitler from Austria.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah, Hitler was from
Crab
Austria.
Claus is in the comments, Fire.
Yeah, I know. I've seen him. Yeah, it was Jay that sent me that information earlier on when it was his Goebbels's step grandchildren. He married the woman who was married into a industrialist family who was basically a Nazi that never got sent down in Nuremberg, and they own BMW as well.
The great grandchildren just put in the comment.
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah, I know the links are unreal. There's so many, as you guys know. I don't have to tell you guys, but
they're not even difficult to find anymore because you can sort of almost find it all just by going through mainstream sources.
Don't forget, we are in the greatest apocalypse ever. The unveiling.
Yeah.
I
suppose we take it for granted though because we're looking that we don't think we're looking deep, do we? But we are obviously because the
most people don't give a shit for it. That's why.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I think it's a case of just knowing where to look and what to look for.
No, but
because a lot of people said, "Oh,
they're going to say we want to look." That's the difference. Most people just don't care. You can tell them to the face and then just switch off.
Yeah. I suppose the first thing is you want to have to look.
Yeah, you want the information.
You have to want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
The saying ignorance is bliss is some people really do like. They enjoy that.
Yeah. Somebody's pointed out in the chat here the Kwan family, and that's what they're called the family that own. I think they own BMW and loads of other stuff as well. And they started the Entrust, obviously with onto your papers checking company that's in Sainsbury's, isn't it, at the minute?
We've seen everyone's seen that video today. That there's a Sainsbury's where they've actually got the check thing where you've got to scan your QR code to make the barrel go up.
Really?
Yeah, it's been installed, and someone's walking down the street. He's got a Brummie accent, and the 2 women that stood there, their accent sounds a bit northern, I guess. They're both Asian, so it's hard to tell. But it was there. It was installed. There were boards outside the shop. It didn't look like the shop was fully open, so they're already installing them in Sainsbury's.
Wow. They're using Northern accent for trust, don't they, as well? In advertising, I mean, they're using different accents for different things. So they're using Northern accent for trust us, etc. Like people.
I don't think this little video wasn't gaining much trust. The guy filming it, like,
they were giving us some grief, wasn't it?
This is the Soviet Union, isn't it? Yeah, fuck you.
It's quite scary. I was listening to the radio today. Sorry, Dom, and it's scary how it's creeping up when they were on about Austria, like I said, in Germany. It's quite scary, though. Well, quite scary and weird how they're openly just talking about should we do what they've done in Austria in England, and everyone's just why not? I think we should. It's creeping up.
And they're and it's like I think it might be Australia. They'll make it mandatory, and if you'll get fined if you don't go to Britney Spears concert, and eventually if you don't pay the fine, they'll send you to prison for not going to the Britney Spears concert.
Wow.
Right.
They better have big prisons. Oh yeah, they have. They're building them. I forgot.
They're building them. Yeah.
Let's have some M&Ms, please.
Like they are here.
Yeah. So
I'm going to start
we'll move on.
Start baking a cake to put a file inside already.
Yeah.
I better start putting mobile phones in my bum.
I've been doing that for years. Anyway, Sunak attended. I'm making that up. Sunak attended Winchester College, a boys' public boarding school at 28 grand a year, as I mentioned earlier, where he was head boy. That's another theme that always seems to be the head boys or whatever, and the editor of the school paper, Chris. That seems to be a theme as well. Just on a side note, as always, there are always stories about these schools. About abuse, and this school's no different. In February 2017, The Guardian said one of Britain's leading public schools has been forced to defend itself and its role in an alleged cover-up of serious physical abuse at Christian summer camps attended by its pupils in the 70s and 80s. Winchester College knew in 1982 about allegations of sadomasochistic abuse, which is characterized by, this is what's in paper, by the way, deriving sexual gratification from both sadism and masochism. John Smith, a British QC who ran a series of Christian summer camps known as bash camps, I bet there were, after the nickname of their founder, E.G.H. Nash.
But bash camps with a B?
Yes.
As in bash?
You can't even make this stuff up, honestly.
Can I just invite Master Lee into the chat?
Yeah, by all means, yeah.
Master Lee. Here he is.
Salutations.
Salutations, comrade.
Salutations. Hey, mate.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, I have been listening to most of it so far. Just before we quickly move on, you mentioned the similarities between World War II and what's taking place right now.
Yeah.
Now, for those who are kind of in the know, they never said that World War II ended, or even communism. So when the walls came down from communism, all it meant is that it spread, and went underground. Now, those that studied World War II from a particular angle, they equally said World War II never ended. It was actually the beginning. It was the blueprint of control and nepotism.
Yeah, Chris says that we're like a trial run, and then they realised both systems really worked, so they've amalgamated both together, haven't they? Really?
Well, they tested out communism, fascism, every ism, and then chose the best version, and this is what we're getting now. I would think, maybe.
Well, I think if you kind of visualize it in a way that it never ended, it dispersed. Yeah. It kind of blended. So all the characters behind it all, they never disappeared. And there's a lot of even nepotism, because if you look at the funders of Germany, it was Prescott Bush.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, who was the grandfather of George Bush. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. And that's on Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's all mainstream stuff, isn't it? Yeah, it's all there.
When I ask people who funded the Germans in World War II, most people don't believe me when I say it was George Bush's relative. They say it can't be. I say, well, it's on Wikipedia. It's on the same mainstream information that you try and throw at me.
And then they'll say, but anyone can edit Wikipedia.
He was charged, wasn't he, for collaborating with the enemy?
He was. There was a major case.
Bush.
There was I forget the other Warburg. There was a German branch of the Warburg family, the bankers, and there was one in America as well. I think he was called Paul Warburg, and he worked heavily involved with the Rockefellers. So a lot of them were going to get done for treason after, but it seemed to get whitewashed as it always does after the war.
The first thing I heard when I was a kid, I remember reading about the IBM computer thing. Do you know what I mean? That was one of the first things that made me go, what?
Well, I'll just throw this in. It was around about maybe 4 years ago. For me, this was like the first sense of censorship. I tried to post a link on Facebook explaining about Prescott Bush, and Facebook wouldn't post it.
Right.
They physically wouldn't let you upload it.
It just said it just comes as like some kind of it just wouldn't upload.
Yeah.
I can't remember how they described it.
Community standards.
Even though, like you said,
it wasn't even that. It just said it wouldn't upload. And what it was, I was because I was kind of getting into this sort of thing a few years ago, and I was trying to explain to a few people that World War I, World War II isn't quite what you might think it is.
No.
And also this links to what you was talking about with religion. Now, there's lots of Jews in India, as an example. There's lots of Indian Jews. What you have to understand is Judaism isn't particularly necessarily a religion when it's of a certain ilk. There's no race, there's no country, there's no borders, there's no culture. This particular type of Judaism knows no boundaries.
I think it's more of a way of life, a way of life.
It's to do with banking and control and nepotism.
Yeah.
So when you try and track or trace any form of Judaism, you'll suddenly realize that it's very confusing, very conflated, even with regards to names, because names get changed to disguise. It's occulted.
It always goes back to eugenics and the black magic type stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why there's always, before you came on, I don't know if you heard, Lee, I was talking about the school he went to, and there's always these people. When we did Blair was the worst one, to be honest with you, and Johnson weren't much better. There's always a school involved where there's child abuse. And I'm not saying that Sunak was involved in any form, but it's always while they're there. Now, it might be an energetic thing, or it might not. I can't remember being at my school and there being that type of thing going on where you there's a report of that.
Also, Dom, it was every one of them, without
every single one, bar none.
And that whole
well,
mentor
this is all
thing as well.
Yeah, this is all part of the splitting of the psyche in order to create personality types.
Trauma-based mind control.
Yeah.
Or monarchy programming.
Also, it'd be the pre-selection, either via nature or nurture. So they're either born a particular way, or they can be converted into a particular way. So you did mention you've got people like Matt Dazalam.
Yeah.
To me, he looks like he would do it anyway. He would do it for free.
Like a brown
he doesn't need. He doesn't need. Yeah, he doesn't need compromising.
Yeah, he's a definite brown shirt. Yeah.
Whereas, I think personally, Boris Johnson. I actually think he has a type of conscience.
I agree. Yeah, we both agree, don't we, Chris, on that?
I think he was sold down the river by his dad, massively. To be fair.
Yeah, and
I think his dad was the one that's if you like.
I reckon his dad's his handler.
And you'll hear me talk about horizontalists. Now, for me, I actually refine horizontalists into sort of subcategories. So, as an example, your standard horizontalist will be one that can do narcissistic things, but they don't necessarily mean to do it. It's not intentional.
Right.
So, as an example, do I think Rishi Sunak is an evil, dark occultist? Possibly not. He doesn't know any different.
Yeah. It's normal behaviour, if you like.
Yeah.
Just trying to climb the greasy ladder.
Yeah, to be really on the dark occult spectrum would be somebody that goes against their conscience right from the off without any justification.
And a bit like you were saying about Boris, he's a bit of a fun. Chris calls him a spoilt prince. He's like a fun time guy, isn't he? He thought he was coming in sorting Brexit out, being the hero like Churchill was. Then all of a sudden he's had this shit show landed on him.
Yeah, and I don't think he was fully aware, and I don't think at the beginning of 2020 when he's had a sort of 180-degree turnaround with regards to herd immunity. I don't actually think he was fully aware totally of what he was expected to do.
Well, Lee, do you remember that? Me and Dom have talked about this. Do you remember when it all first kicked off? Him and his missus were in there going, and his presentation was totally different. It was like, if we just spend 2 weeks and we flatten the curve, everything will be all right. And it was almost like he was enjoying it. And then flash forward a few months, and he looked like he wanted to kill himself. Looked grave and down.
Yeah, it looked awful. One thing we were talking about, guys, might be something interesting to look into, is a lot of these leaders seem to be going into hospital. I noticed the governor of Australia, that Dan, whatever he's called, he fell, did his back, and he was in hospital for a month or so. Trump went into hospital. Johnson went into hospital. And when they come out, they don't look the same person.
Yeah, I think whatever happened to Boris Johnson, it happened in that time when he first went to hospital. At the beginning of 2020. He looked, to me, he had a completely different energy type. To be honest, right, and this is going to sound a bit bad, I used to find him quite an interesting character.
I
used to find him quite entertaining, and I could quite often listen to him and find him quite entertaining. But after he came out of hospital, when I looked at him, he became very kind of twisted and sick. Yeah, like energetically.
Sinister.
Before that, he could be telling you that the sky was falling down, but he'd do it in some sort of like bardish, eloquent style, dancing around with words. Entertaining, definitely. But I think something happened to him.
So picture 9, Lance. Let's move on. We're going to be here all night, but I like these rabbit holes we're going down. I like these rabbit holes.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, I know. Another thing that always pops up is that with the rags to riches stories, apparently Sunak waited at a curry house in Southampton during his summer holidays, as well as going to Winchester in the 2000s that cost 28 grand a year. So it wasn't that much of a hard life, as I've said. And I'm not saying, I know Andy disagrees with me, that everybody who goes to private school turns out to be sadistic. But most of the cabinet that I've looked into, and I've researched most of them now, I've got a lot of information on them. If not, most of the MPs have either been to a private school or ended up at the six recruitment centres like Oxford or Cambridge or some other top-notch university that are directly funded by NGOs, either in the UK or abroad, and you go to universities like Harvard or Stanford University, you know, it's very rare that somebody at a normal school gets into that sort of position of the cabinet anyway.
Sure.
No, you've got to be some sort of super genius and stand
much
out.
the same in the United States as well.
Yeah.
How it works
Well, the
over there,
removal of a child from the parents is the foundation for mind
Trauma.
control.
Yeah, trauma. Beginning of trauma.
Yeah. So that by definition, I mean, I've heard some very traumatic stories from people that went to these private schools,
right?
When they've been torn away from, you know, they've forcibly been torn away from their parents, and it's, you know, they've had serious issues. I'm not sure if you know, but part of my work is doing personal protection, and a lot of my clients are relatively wealthy,
right.
And a lot of their problems that they suffer now comes from the childhood experience of being torn away from their parents, and they're often given a sponsor or a mentor,
or a watcher, yeah.
I mean,
so,
what do they give the kids up at 6, 7? Is it 6 or 7 years old?
It can vary. It depends, because some of them will go to a religious-based school, and
like
where they're taught by
Blair did.
where they're taught by monks and nuns. That's quite extreme. But even in that alone, there's a dark side to monastic life, because a lot of these people that go that way are very twisted and tortured.
Yeah. Blair went to a private school where the two of his mentors were both paedophiles, and there were 4 known.
I'm sure they were.
Yeah, 2 at each school, right? Well, there were 3 at his second school, and
surrounded.
It was, and one of them comforted him, and he sat him on his knee. Yeah, and the other one, when he was older, was his mentor, and he was. They were all religion.
You can imagine what type of mentorship he got from them.
So, and look at Tony Blair now.
Yeah, are you telling me that he escaped 5 known paedophiles on his own?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like and look at him now. They're still weeding him out in the Divock 91 saga to make videos and tell everyone they're bad unless they get the Divock spear.
We all know that there's a disproportionate amount of a like sexual. I'm trying to think of the right word. Misconduct. Amongst MPs, ministers, so on and so forth.
Point is,
higher echelons.
Who would give up the child just for months on end? I mean, when we did the BJ one fight, his dad didn't even. He sent all his kids there, and his dad didn't even go and look around the school where he was sending them. Forever. Yeah, well, you just sent them there. He said, "I don't need to go and have a look at it." He just sent them there, didn't
he? All he wanted them to do was go to Eton. And that was the feeder school for him.
Was to speed it up for him to go to Eton.
I mean, that very word there, feeder school, just puts shivers down his spine to start with, doesn't it? But,
I'll just throw this out there. I've mentioned this before on Rise Above, that to be fair, everybody experiences it to a degree, because at the moment of birth, you're taken away into the hands of strangers, and that's intentional.
Yes,
that is literally the foundation for everybody's programming and mind control
and
separation,
the cutting of the umbilical cord too early.
Yeah, and what you'll find now is that babies are taken away for longer and longer periods of time from the moment that they're born for all kinds of medical tests and so on and so forth. The process takes longer and longer when naturally it should be the opposite.
Well, the first thing one of the first things they do is give them that arm spear, isn't it?
Vitamin K.
Well, they tell you it's vitamin K.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, a newborn baby is incarnated into this realm, and literally the first thing they see is not their parents.
Yeah,
they're not the first people to touch them.
They're basically being stolen, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's the foundation for everybody's programming. Now, whether we like it or not, we've all been programmed. We've all experienced trauma. And like I said, I've mentioned this before on Rise Above, that, excuse me, the first stage of trauma is the separation, which causes separation anxiety, and the severance of the child-parent relationship.
I just want to read a comment. out here that somebody's put. They sent it me actually. A lass called Catherine Amblin here on the comments, and she reminded me that the nanny, she was trained at that nanny school, Chris, the royal one, where they pushed that Rosemary's Baby pram.
Yeah.
She used to get in the bath naked with Boris.
Of course she did.
Yeah, yes, you do.
Well, also, is that sending him in his, playboy ways kind of thing? Do you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Was that nurturing him into that?
Is that where the sexual promiscuity comes from?
That's what I'm trying to say. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't know, but that would be very worrying, wouldn't it, as a parent? Really, wouldn't it?
What you got to factor in. What you got to factor in is
go on.
The only way that this realm can be run under government or control is by the severance of the family, child, parent, and then the parent to the ancestors. Now, if we had the knowledge from the ancestors that was naturally passed on, we wouldn't be in the position that we're in now. So there's actually a degradation, a devolution, based purely on that alone. And this whole control system is designed to sever the ties between ancestor knowledge.
100% agree with that. Like I was saying that to my missus the other day. Mine and my brother's parents both died, and you do realize, like a lot of other cultures, they constantly respecting and paying notice to the parents. I mean, now we don't even have a gravestone. Everyone's cremated. There's nothing. They're just gone, aren't they, into the ashes, if you like. And there's nothing there. Because I was saying, I'm going to make I'm going to make a little shrine for you, one for me, just as a remembrance, because we've got like now what will be grandkids. They don't know
the other thing is in the West. I don't know if you'll agree with me, but in the West, we kind of taught that ancestor or ancestor worship is satanic.
When it's the other way around.
It's the other way around. Honoring the ancestors, because if we were to take on the knowledge of the ancestors, and that is where we should be getting the knowledge from, not from scientists, not from academia, not from the so-called experts or politicians. We should be getting it directly from our ancestors.
I'll tell you what we need to do, Lee, is when we do another sheep farm, this is the type of subject that we all need to be having a chat about, innit, really?
It's the foundation.
Could go on for... I like that Essence one you guys were doing the other week. That was a good one. It's all connected. All connected. The Winchester College, I know we're going back here, was a feeder to New College, Oxford, for which it was designed. So this is, again, comes back to that. And it's the same as Eton. Eton was a feeder. Sunak studied philosophy, politics and economics at Oxford, graduating first in 2001. During his time at the university, he undertook an internship at the Conservative Campaign Headquarters. You see this a lot as well. They're joining these campaign headquarters, and this is where they start getting mentored. This is also another link to the ascendancy up the tree. These people seem to be always involved with some kind of group, Conservative campaign headquarters. Carrie Simmons, Johnson's satanic missus, she worked at Conservative campaign headquarters. She was in marketing, apparently, although there's no real history of what she did there. And as we mentioned that in the Johnson docs. Preeta Patel also worked there, and there's many, many others that have worked there in this government. This is like a clearinghouse for the potential leaders of the future.
Starting to see a pattern here, Dom.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly, yeah. We're starting to see a big pattern. In 2006, Sunak got an MBA from Stanford University in the US, where he was a Fulbright scholar. The US-UK Fulbright Commission is part of the worldwide Fulbright program. This is one of the most prestigious and well-known scholarship programs. The program was conceived by Senator J. William Fulbright after World War II to promote leadership, learning, and empathy between nations through educational exchange. The global program, sorry to use the word global, everybody, operates over 155 countries and has supported 300,000 people in exchanges to and from the US. Within the global Fulbright program, 28 alumni have served as head of state or government, 11 have served in the US Congress, 1 Fulbright has served as Secretary General of the UN, 43 from 11 countries have won Nobel Prizes, including 2 in 2010, and 78 have won Pulitzer Prizes. So you can see where it's just giving people that key in the door to open up into that success story.
Is this that club that people talk about?
This
the club
that we're not in.
This is the feeder club.
This is the feeder club. These are the types of places. They include barons, baronesses, sirs, MPs, authors, journalists, playwrights, scientists like geneticists, economists, judges, etc., etc. Every walk of life. Sorry, Chris, were you going to say something?
A lot of generals as well, fair.
A lot of generals as well.
Yeah.
You know, in these types of things, they're the people that in World War One that were sending tens of thousands of people. They're making the same decisions now, aren't they? It's the same decisions. Tens of thousands of people jump out of a trench. Who cares if they all get wiped out in one day? Just send some more out. And it's the same thing with the arm spears, isn't it? Who cares?
No, it's just a different type of war.
Just a different type of war.
A different war,
But they basically cover every job. And Stanford University is also the potential road for the eternal blankety blank checkbook and pen. As of 2021, 85 Nobel laureates and 29 Turing Award laureates. In addition, Stanford is particularly noticed for the entrepreneurship and is one of the most successful universities in attracting funding for startups. Stanford alumni have founded numerous companies which combined produce more than 2.7 trillion in annual revenue, creating 5.5 million jobs from one university, roughly the equivalent of the 7th largest economy in the world as of 2020. All from one university, and this has happened by chance. Stanford is also the alma mater for 74 living billionaires, 17 plastic astronauts with Funky Wellies on. It is also one of the leading producers of Fulbright scholars, Marshall scholars, and Rhodes scholars, and we know about the Rhodes Round Table. A lot of them are members of the United States Congress. I read a quick quote that said, "Proximity to Silicon Valley is not the most important thing that distinguishes Stanford, but it is certainly the most unique." The most famous Stanford story is that of William Hewlett and David Packard, who patented the innovative audio oscillator. Eventually, Hewlett-Packard, HP, was born and moved into the research park at the biggest PC manufacturer in the world. Today, William Hewlett and the late David Packard, together with their family foundations and company, have given more than 300 million back to Stanford University. Ironically, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation controls $7.1 billion. As of December 2015, the foundation's investment portfolio, strangely, totaled $6.7 billion. So they haven't really given it away, have they? One of the main areas of funding is population and reproductive health, like Planned Parenthood.
Oh.
So Stanford University, although it's not really linked to Rishi Sunak, you can see the sort of energies that this place is. You go there, you get successful. And that's what you see over and over again in these places. And the interesting thing is that the two guys, Frederick Tierman and William Schockler, who was also an open eugenicist from Stanford, are both widely credited as being the fathers of Silicon Valley. After World War II, even though it didn't end like Master Lee said, Stanford and Frederick Tierman, who I can safely say was more likely CIA, and in his own words, this is what he said, all branches of the military would fund the programs and wanted Stanford to build prototypes of electronic intelligence and electronic warfare systems that could be put into production by partners in the industry. The Navy informs Tierman that money was not a problem, and we're talking the 1950s here. Yeah. So this is a CIA hotbed as well. Yeah. There was Hewlett Packard, them two guys. I didn't realize there was so much information on them. That were basically a CIA operation, really.
I'm using their laptop.
They just
now.
made printers.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I'm using one of the laptops.
what they actually say is that Stanford, without Stanford, there would be no Silicon Valley. I mean, it's quite a statement, that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. If there was no Silicon Valley, think about all the other things there wouldn't be.
And it's it's not encouraging that eugenists started Silicon Valley.
Not particularly, no.
No.
I mean, I'm of that belief.
Now Silicon Valley wants to inject everyone.
Yes.
With their tech.
Yeah.
Which is based on,
well, it's the foundations, isn't it? The foundation is that these people, I mean, again, Marcel will tell you about the energy probably that's created. I'm a great thing in that if you go somewhere where that energy's there, that is going to feed into you. Would you say that, Marcel Lee?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
It just follows through, doesn't it?
Osmosis. Yeah, it's symbiotic. Yeah, and this is one of the problems that we face, is that we're affected and infected by the energy around us, and that's the whole purpose of personal protection on an energetic level.
Yeah. When you think about Silicon Valley, I pulled some information that said Silicon Valley is home to many of the world's largest high-tech corporations, including the headquarters of more than 30 businesses in the Fortune 1000, and thousands of startup companies. Silicon Valley also accounts for 1/3 of all the venture capital investment in the US.
1/3 of the whole of the US.
1/3, yes.
33%.
33%.
Oh,
sorry.
It's funny as well when you think of Silicon Valley when it first started. When you started first hearing about it were all about like hammocks and nice workspaces, and they're the ones that are going to take us down.
Yeah,
it's all about come work for us. We'll you can have a little sleeping pod. You don't want to work. Hey, just go to the sleeping pod.
Do you think
now it's like go to the euthanasia pod, comrade?
Yeah.
Well, silicon's the old thing, isn't it? Really? I mean, we're carbon, and the silicon based was meant to be the one that we sort of lost, isn't it? That was the land of the giants, weren't it? Really, the giant trees and things like that. That meant to be silicon based, wasn't it?
Now it's going to be Graphene Valley.
Yeah, Graphene Valley. Yeah. What I wanted to show you, sort of an intro, is this: is that people like Sunak, it's like they're again like we've been talking, nurtured and mentored and watched all the way through the ranks of universities like Oxford and Stanford and all these other places. And then he left there and walked straight in to a role at Goldman Sachs. Just like you do.
Yeah.
High level R banking.
Yeah. And you can say with confidence that there would be no Stanford without Stanford, there would be no Silicon Valley. All from just one university.
What you've got to factor in as well, what I mentioned about the severance or separation between families, because they understand how certain things work, they do the opposite. So they're transgenerational. They definitely ancestor worship. They definitely pass on their plans.
Oh, for sure.
So when they make their plans today, they're planning for their children's children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's how you gain strength.
Because they're following out their great.
Well, their weapon is division. Their weapon is division. So if they can, and this is why, like even the 60s, because people talk about the 60s as being like a liberation or something. Well, in actual fact, that was a CIA operation.
Yeah.
Because that was the beginning of the separation of the family. Because then people could have marriage outside of, children outside of marriage.
Yeah, the pill was invented.
Contraception.
Et cetera. Yeah.
All of that stuff. And all of that was in the 60s was so that in the 80s and 90s, you would have single parents. Now, what you get from that, and this is a communist trick, is that a child born without a father, then the state becomes the father.
Yeah. That's that separation thing, isn't it, you were talking about?
Yeah, because the end game is that you don't have any parents. The state is your parent.
Which was that? What was that law they were trying to bring in when they were trying to get kids to make their own decisions about the arms spear?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all connected.
And ironically, there were two CIA-initiated programs running at Stanford. One was remote viewing. They were doing remote viewing. The CIA at Stanford, and another one was the famous one, the Stanford University prison experiment.
Yeah.
Which you could say is what's happening now, where they put a load of prison guards who were from the university in, and they made a mock prison up. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen that?
Yeah. We talked about it here on the show before.
And that was at Stanford during I think during the 60s, weren't it? Or 70s? It might have been early 70s. Or but it was pretty horrific, that, wasn't it? The guards turned into absolute animals, if I remember.
Yeah, only
rightly.
after a short time as well. Didn't even take that long. They had to shut it down after about 10 days, I think.
I reckon they might have been drugged though, personally, as well, don't you? I reckon there was something going on there personally, or some sort of frequency.
Probably to speed up the experiment. Yeah.
I wonder where it was hosted as well. I wonder what geographical location it was hosted at.
Yeah.
Might have had something to do with it, with some bad energies.
Yeah, well, you've got to ask that about the whole thing, ain't you? If the Stanford University was just set up or Silicon Valley place there, how come doesn't just happen by chance, does it? That's not.
No.
There's no just pop up. Well, we'll do Silicon Valley just around the corner there.
No, it's all everything's placed geographically on purpose.
Well, it's not a coincidence that we're heading towards the singularity. So what we're going to witness is all of these different modalities, all these different techniques, tactics, methods that we've looked at or seen, studied over the years, are all coming together.
Yeah.
For the great unveiling.
All schwabbed into one for the great reset.
Yeah.
Is that your mate, that, Lee?
Yeah,
He's turned into a wolf.
Yeah.
Is it a full moon?
It's a blood moon.
It's a blood moon tonight, yeah.
Blood moon tonight. Can we have picture 10, Lance, please?
Picture
I think
10.
we're on 10. I think we're on 10. I've lost track now.
Just say
move on.
The next picture.
Yeah, next one. We've missed that one. We didn't put that one in, did we?
Do you know what? I think we might actually be a picture behind, are we? Oh no! Right. Okay. So this one is.
That should have been up there. Yeah. The next one.
Okay.
So, while studying at Stanford, Sunak met his future wife, Ashcroft Murthy, the daughter of Indian billionaire Narayana Murthy. We'll come to him a bit later on. Some interesting stuff about him. Yeah, that's the one. Sunak's business career, just like Javid, who left his $3 million a year job to earn £80,000 as an MP, Sunak left his multi-million-pound salary to become an $80,000 a year MP. They must think we're mad.
Right. I mean, how does that work?
Well, it doesn't work that way, does it? We know it doesn't work. You've got a greedy banker who wants to earn more and more and more, decides to take a £2 million pay cut. It doesn't work, does it?
No, not at all.
Like most of these people, though, you only get a glimpse of their career because it's like it's written. It's we could sort of name what we've done over his lifetime, but these guys, it's sort of written there and that's it now. That's in stone. There's no outline, no
Don't
other
ask questions,
detail.
peasants.
Exactly, don't ask questions, peasants. After leaving Stanford, Sunak went to work as an analyst for investment bank Goldman Sachs from 2001 to 2004. Does this really happen? Do they just leave? I was talking to a mate of mine who worked in the city. He said it's a very rare occasion you get a job like that just thrown at you. But anyway,
that would be the kind of place you would stick at.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
nepotism.
Yeah. He then worked for a hedge fund management firm with a really sinister name. So he came back to the UK, and this name is an odd name: the Children's Investment Fund Management UK LLP, otherwise known as TCI.
Investing in children.
Ooh, Sunak became a partner in 2006. The TCI, or the Children's Investment Fund, is owned by Sir Chris Hon, and he's another interesting character who we'll probably come to in a bit. He left the TCI in 2009 to join former colleagues at the hedge fund firm Thelemy Partners, which launched in October 2010 with an initial investment pot of $700 million.
Wow.
Yeah, it just started. Just started this company and it had $700 million landed in that pot. Yeah. I like where they say it, $700 million investment pot. Sunak was also a director of investment firm Catamaran Ventures, owned by his father-in-law, Indian businessman N.R. Narayana Murthy. More on all these companies and connections a bit later on. We'll save them. Picture 12, please. I think we might have jumped the gun a bit, but anyway, we'll go.
Oh, I've got.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
There's a little surprise here for you.
Oh, that's mint, isn't it? Who did that one?
The biggest fiddle of the decade. Oh, this is by Russ Kieran. Big up Russ Kieran. I'll just make this a little bit bigger so everyone can see it. There are a couple of little surprises thrown in it.
Oh, I like that. Yeah,
we've got one from sort of each of the meme team, or at least three of them. I think
it's strange when you say Margaret Thatcher's ghost there, because no, it's very strange. That's a bit eerie, that, because he worked for. I'm going to come on to it in a sec. Actually, in 2014, he entered politics, so he left his job earning millions, and in the same year entered politics, and was. At that time, he was head of the Black Minority and Ethnic, the BME Research Unit, a centre-right think tank of policy exchange, for which he co-wrote a report for the BME communities in the UK. So the policy exchange is where Jeremy Hunt, yeah, I said Hunt, was interviewing Sir Bill Gates. Yeah. So that's that
Health
interview.
Chancellor Gates.
Chancellor Gates, yeah. He was interviewing him at the Policy Exchange, which is a centre-right think tank. That year, he wrote a report for the Centre for Policy Studies, a Thatcherite think tank. So that was set up by Margaret Thatcher. So that's that link there, which were a bit strange, supporting the establishment of free ports after Brexit. And the following year, wrote a report advocating the creation of a retail bond market for small, medium-sized enterprises. He wrote an article for The Times with fellow MPs, and this is where it gets a bit interesting, and close friends, Robert Jenrick and Oliver Dowden, chairman of the Conservative Party, supporting Johnson. They're them three freaks. One interesting note was, Jenrick is current Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. Jenrick reportedly urged the public at televised press briefings to stay at home during lockdown, and he twice flouted restrictions, do as I say, peasants, and travelled 150 miles, but not as I do, from London to a second home in Herefordshire. It's not just a second home, though. It's I Manor. And then he travelled another 40 miles to see his parents. So he got caught out twice. Didn't get fined, didn't get done, nothing. Wanted same court appearance that you were in, Worry, Double L?
No, I didn't see him in court. No,
it's strange, that, isn't it? Weird. In 2009, the I Manor was bought by Robert Jenrick for £1.1 million. It's a grade 1 listed building. He also owns two 2 million homes in London, one of which is a £2.5 million townhouse. Jenrick Jenrick is married to she's a woman, Mikhail Berkner. She's 9 years older than Jenrick, and she is the child of Holocaust survivors. You know where I'm going here?
She's Israeli born. Mikhail Gorbachev.
Yeah, she's Israeli born and US educated corporate lawyer who practices mainly in London. She recently represented a company called Theoracon, which was sold to Pfizer for 810 million.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Gosh.
Yeah, that deserves a gosh. Let's get a little cash up on the screen.
Yeah.
Sold to the Christmas Miracle Factory.
Yeah. So these are the links that these people have got. And obviously she didn't get a bonus for that. There were no sort of bonuses going on for our friend there.
No.
Picture 14, please. Moving on, Sunak was appointed Chief Secretary of the Treasury by Prime Minister Johnson and served under Sanjay Javid. He became a member of the Privy Council, which is another interesting thing. That also seems to be something that's given to people who are in the in crowd. The script unfolds the Centre of Policy Studies, where Sunak worked, which is another think tank and pressure group in the United Kingdom. While being independent, it's independent, Chris. The centre has historical links to the Conservative Party. This is another one. It was co-founded by Baron Keith Joseph, Alfred Sherman, and Margaret Thatcher. That's why we're getting a bit funky with that meme. Yeah. So, just to give an idea of what this organisation is, co-founder Sir Keith Joseph, second Baron, a member of the Conservative Party, he served in the cabinet under Prime Ministers Aaron Macmillan, Sir Douglas Home, Edward Heath. Now, just stick with that one a minute. Yeah, and Margaret Thatcher, and she was a known as employer of weirdos, wasn't she?
Well, she was a dirty fucker as well.
Yeah, she was. There was something funky going on there, wasn't there?
Yeah,
especially with her son as well, I believe. But anyway, he was a key influence in the creation of what would be known as Thatcherism. He co-founded the Centre of Policy Studies, which sounds quite covert, if you ask me, writing his first publication, Why Britain Needs a Social Market Economy. Joseph was first to introduce the concept of social market economy into Britain, which again sounds quite Schwabinism.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So one of the guys, another failed Tory, and Anthony Gilbert Thorpe, a Tory activist, failed parliamentary candidate, accused Baron Keith Joseph of being present at parties where sexual abuse of underage boys took place. Gilbert Thorpe was a Tory child abuse whistleblower who said, I supplied underage rent boys for Margaret Thatcher's cabinet ministers. Along with naming others in the cabinet of the day, Mr. Gilbert Thorpe accused Sir Keith Joseph of being a paedophile. Sir Keith Joseph also worked with Edward Heath.
An alleged murderous paedophile.
Off with his boat.
Yeah, that's right.
That was weird with him because when everyone kept saying he was a satanic paedophile, he was doing satanic rituals and killing children, it was like no. And then I remember reading this it was in a newspaper, and it was one day, and it said we found out he was a paedophile, but he wasn't a satanic paedophile. And then it was in the newspaper for one day, and then it was gone.
Oh, as long as he's not a satanic paedophile.
Just
as long as he didn't do anything weird to the kids before he murdered them and threw them off the boat.
Just a basic box standard paedophile. Don't worry, he was satanic.
Edward Heath was that has to be the. I mean, we were talking about piss takes before, where that guy wrote that book and he should have been being looked at for tax evasion. But having Edward Heath as Prime Minister must be the ultimate thing, thumb up the nose type of thing, because
totally covered up.
Yeah, totally.
And he came out, and like I say, it was in. I remember it happening. It was in the newspapers for one day, then it was gone, never to be discussed again. Oh, just quickly, Dom. I knew this pricked my ears up when you were saying that he left the Children's Investment Fund Management in November 2009 to join the former colleagues at the TCI new hedge fund firm Theleme Partners.
Yeah,
Theleme.
Don't give me script away now, will you?
No, you've already said this far.
Yeah.
Made me ears prick up. Thelema, which is the Thelemic law of
ancient tradition.
Alistair Crowley.
Yeah. Alistair Crowley.
Anton LaVey.
Do what thou will.
Why? Why is it always? I mean, I didn't even see that one, but why is it always come back to that type of stuff?
Because that's what it's all about.
It's what it's all about, and this is why I get criticised for saying that.
You don't get criticised here, Master Lee.
Satanism is far more prevalent than people realise.
It's the root of everything.
It's the root of everything.
Yeah. And they disguise it as communism or the Chinese or whatever.
Well, I always say to people, well, look around you. Look at any form of authority. And what do you see? You see regalia. You see signs, symbols. Now, when you examine or investigate all of their signs and symbols and regalia, it's all satanic. All of it.
And what the goal of the synagogue of Satan is total control. And that's where we're heading right now. Yeah. Total control of everything, total domination.
Yeah, because the ultimate aim of a Satanist is to control other people without their will.
Yeah.
So you can subvert people to do things that you want them to do. And that's what this whole realm
the ultimate bullet. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I mean,
in fairness, the reason why you get a lot of grief is for a lot of people, the standard guy in the street. If we just said what we've just said there, they'd just shake their head and say you're just mad.
Well, I mean, take Boris Johnson's last press conference. From what I recall, it was on a moon day at 3 p.m. So straight away, they're using certain aspects of control, and then you see that
they announced that on the day. I thought of you, Lee, straight away. I was like, 3 o'clock on Moon Day. I was like, oh, come on.
That's witching hour, isn't it? For those who don't know, but I don't know.
Is that what it is?
And they have three on the platform, and they use the colours blue when they're trying to give convincing information. So these are all
calling cards.
Yeah, they're all mechanisms. And
if you try and explain any of that to anyone, like, they just think you're nuts. Obviously, we don't, but if you try and explain that to someone who doesn't look at any of this stuff, like even that Theleme thing I pointed out, they think you're insane, don't they?
Yeah, well, I think most people see what the consequences are, but they don't see where it comes from, because most people, I think, will admit that the world's crazy and things don't make sense, but they don't see the origins of it. Now, once you start to see the origins of it, then it all starts to make sense. Because it's we're seeing projections, we're seeing reality playing out in a way not of our choosing, because none of this is in our favor.
No.
Yeah, we have got nothing to gain by being right here.
No, we haven't. No. Absolutely,
sort of everything's to lose, really. So it's one of those weird situations where you keep trying to expose a narrative that you hope isn't real or hope isn't true. So the best thing that could possibly happen would be for you to prove wrong. people can't get their head around that.
Yeah, I mean, there's another thing, another aspect that you have to factor into all of this, and it's a term known as naivety. Now, that is used in the occult. So it's something that is generated in so-called victims and is exploited. So what you're witnessing now, and people say, well, why can't people see it? Well, it's a thing called naivety. So when you want to create a mechanism of control, you equally have to create a mechanism for naivety, because when people are naive, they're easy to control. When they're wise, then you can't control them. So all these little stepping stones, they're all adding to the pot of naivety in the general public consciousness.
Where the masks stay apart, it just takes everyone back to that childlike level.
Like what we see is like ludicrous gaslighting in a way. I guess it's sort of creating a massive safe space for the naivety to breed and self-propagate. It's like if you want to be ultimately naive about what's going on, we'll provide you with 100 stupid explanations as to why things are happening like this, and you can sit in and you can swim in this.
Take your pick.
There's hundreds of them.
Roll around.
Weed is causing heart attacks. Babies are getting climate change in the womb.
It's just a normal thing for 10-year-old kids to drop dead of myocarditis.
I'll tell you what I saw the other day when I was out shopping. It's a shop I go to quite often, and I saw a defibrillator. It just appeared.
Yeah, me and Dom have talked about it quite a lot. The pop-up of the defibrillator.
They're relatively new as well, aren't they? Just popping up around.
Popping up. And do you know that apparently they're locked, and an average Joe can't use them anyway. It's only for somebody who's skilled, apparently. So they're just there for fear, aren't they?
I don't know. I think my personal take on it, I mean, it's a little bit of a kind of wealthy area. And my take on it is that for those who know, will have the opportunity or option to use it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
because I mean, where I live down here, because there's a lot of old people, you actually see defibrillators on the street. This is like way before the Soviet Union. In like Christchurch, you go to Christchurch, Andy,
there's a few.
There's defibrillators on the street in like little booths on the high street because everyone there is old.
I would say though it's only the last 4 years maybe that's happened though.
Yeah,
it's not a lot. That's what I mean. They're fairly
pretty new. I mean, I went to a wedding in a village in Yorkshire, and it was when me and Dom first had this conversation because I was in this little village near where he lives, and there was one on the street, and I'm like, that's bloody weird. Why is
the first time I saw it, I thought that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I always say that you'll always find one outside of Waitrose.
Yeah, rich old people.
Yeah, you never find one outside the co-op.
Buying Prince Charles's Dutchy organic materials.
Got one in the bargain bin at Lidl's. Don't use that one, kids.
Near Slumdog's books in that basket.
I can see a meme brewing up here.
Yeah, I can see a meme. Yeah.
When all these defibrillators coming out, and then me and my brother, me and Dom have been sharing articles about heart failures and stuff. It's not hard to put a picture together, is it, of where it's going?
No,
definitely not.
I mean,
I got an awful story today. I know I'm going off track here, but an investigation. This is on BBC into the spike in newborn baby deaths in Scotland. Yeah. So it's at least 21 babies under 4 weeks old died in September. It's basically deaths have over doubled, basically, and they're trying to work out how.
Something
coincidentally, there's been a push for women to get jabs.
Has anybody got any stats on the birth of babies since 2020? Is it up or down or sideways or?
I haven't looked to be honest with you.
It could be quite revealing.
Quite telling. Yeah.
Well, I made a post the other day. I said, has anyone that's been double Britney'd conceived after the Britney and successfully had a baby? And no one could put that yet. And now I appreciate there's a short time span because you have to be double Britney'd at least 9 months ago.
Probably next year would be a good one.
But there were 10 people in the comment section saying that they had people that had been Britney'd and had a stillborn or a miscarriage or lost.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
I'll be honest. When Dom told me that story, he just said then I actually felt a bit sick. And you get this feeling, don't you? The more of these things you hear. I had a guy come round the other day, a delivery guy, and he said, "Oh yeah, the other delivery guy, he just died in his car. I said, how old was he? 50 odd. What did he die of? Heart attack. And you just think, is this what's happening now? Is this it? Is this where it gets dark from this point on?
I think it's already happening more than we even know.
But do you think there is an element where, like, because the focus is on this, especially for us, that we see it more?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. There's a degree, because I was driving my car the other day, and there was a bicycle adjacent to me, and it was an oldish guy wearing a mask, probably about 50, 60, and he literally just fell off his bike and had a heart attack.
Fucking hell.
Right.
Now, does that happen all the time? Or?
Well, Lee, it's funny you say that, because I was driving into Cambridge the other day, and I was telling Dom, and I just saw this young girl, I'm guessing 20 to 30, lying at the side of the street. I mean, it's a big cycling community here, so I didn't know she'd been knocked off a bike. I didn't see a bike. I just saw her lying there, paramedics around her with a load of blankets on her, and she was just lying there. And I looked in the news when I got home, and I couldn't find anything about it for the next couple of days. And like you just said, exactly like that. Is that just going to be? I mean, and the thing is, the way people's minds are now, within 6 months, that'll all be forgotten, and this is just how it always was. This is what happens.
Yeah.
You know, people just fall down at the side of the street.
Because they've had the memories wiped.
Is that
the
what we've seen
wiped?
in the media though? Like the stuff that you've been exposing? I mean, I sent you something as well that you put on your channel. Are we being primed with? Yeah, kids have heart attacks too.
It's normalising the entire thing. The fact someone just drops in the street, the defibrillator, whatever you call it. Kids have them. It's just a that in a year or so, like Dom said, they've been lobotomized, so no one will think it was weird.
Can I throw something out? It's been bugging me all week. Right, it's to do with depopulation, and I've mentioned it before that there seems to be a bit of confusion within the Truther movement with regards to depopulation. Now, what I'm trying to figure out is, and I think most people don't know, and like I say, there's confusion between, or there's two different schools of thought with regards to this. Now, for those who've been jabbed, are they the ones to be depopulated? Because why would they depopulate the compliant ones and leave the uncompliant alone? Surely it should be the other way around. Now that could lead to a few different options. That they could actually release something next year that would leave those that are not been to the concert with a problem.
I've thought about that as well, and I thought, you know what, I don't care. I'm still not doing it.
Let me interject, right? What about if the jab isn't necessarily going to kill weak people and leave strong ones, but it actually kills strong ones and leaves weak ones? Because if people that aren't going to take it, you know, if we're going to be shut out of the system or we won't be able to interact, as far as they're concerned, we don't exist anymore because we won't be taking part.
Yeah.
But who do they want to take part? Do they want strong, strong-willed people to take part? Well, no, they don't. They want weak people.
Yeah.
Well, so not everyone's going to be wiped out, are they? So it's like who is it? Who is it designed to wipe out?
So everybody talks about depopulation, but who are they depopulating?
Well, it's not depopulation. Isn't everyone dies? It's like, you know, the herd has got to be culled. There's many
but this is what I'm saying. Who are they thinning out? Are they thinning out the ones that are going to be ill in the future? Are they thinning out the ones that won't comply? Are they going to thin out the ones that will comply?
You know, the ones that aren't compatible with the transhumanist upgrade, maybe.
Yeah, I think we need to be more. We need to try and establish and be more specific as to who they're actually depopulating. Because I hear it all the time. Depopulation is all about depopulation. Well, who exactly are they?
What if it was as simple as just 95%, as to in line with the Georgia Guidestones? I mean, that would be the simple. That would be Occam's razor, isn't it? Who's being depopulated? Doesn't matter who, just 95%.
Because you've also got.
Well, it does matter who, doesn't it? It does matter because they've got. Don't forget, they wouldn't miss a crisis. So if they're going to destroy 95% of the population, then they're definitely going to pick who the 5% that stays are. They're definitely going to pick that.
Yeah, but
because that's their opportunity to be God.
You've also got to factor in that. I mean, I know a few that have been depopulated through one way or another, and it could be suicide because of financial problems that they've suffered with the lockdowns. It's got absolutely nothing to do with
jib jabs. Yeah.
Jib jabs, yeah.
Maybe it's just numbers. Maybe they just got to get that 5%. It doesn't matter who it is because it's the number then is so low.
Or maybe I look at it this way as well. Maybe it's that trading places dollar bet. They don't give a shit, and they're just having a dollar bet to sit. You know, we can make a peasant into a city slicker and a city slicker into a peasant, and we don't care. You know, maybe it's that. Maybe it's just a game. And because if you think about the culling of a population, they're already changing people eugenically. They've been doing that for 70 years, 80 years, whatever. They've already been doing this. They've slowed the birth rate down.
I think it's longer.
Yeah, you're probably right. But the fact is they have been doing that, haven't they? We know that. So they've probably already got control of us if they want us to.
Yeah, testosterone levels in men have been rapidly declining over the decades.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move on. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. But it's that again. You're coming up with interesting points there that need discussing in greater depth.
I always come up with interesting points, though.
Yeah, and I'm writing them down for next time when we do a sheep farm one.
Content creators.
Yeah, content creators. Yeah. So Sunak worked for the Policy Exchange, which is a mixed bag of political parties, if you believe the narrative. If you remember, as I said, Jeremy Hunt was interviewing Bill Gates at the Policy Exchange. The Policy Exchange is another centre-right, whatever this means, right-wing think tank based in London. And in 2007, it was described by the Daily Telegraph as the largest and also most influential think tank on the right. The Washington Post said it's often inform government policy in Britain. So these are these think tanks that are just like these benign things that work behind the scenes that actually control what we're doing. And this was set up, it's a registered charity, and it was set up in 2002 by Nicholas Bowles and Michael Wendigove and Baron Francis Maud, and he's another interesting character. In 2018, Mark Carney, Governor of the Bank of England, described Policy Exchange as a multidisciplinary, highly influential, productive force at the heart of Westminster and our political system. However, Policy Exchange does list some sponsors inside its reports, such as the European Climate Foundation and the Gates Foundation.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. The Health Chancellor. Picture 18, please. So we come back to that name, Thelemy. We've gone past him. We've lost his track here, haven't we?
Where have we gone past?
I don't know. We're go forward. Either because we've been thrown out, maybe because we put them memes in. We need to go forward now.
Wait.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that one. Slumdog. Who are Rishi's friends?
Here we go.
Yeah, that's it. So Moderna's little earner. So Thelemy Partners LLP. In an article I found in the Wall Street Journal, the headline said, "The millionaire who gave Moderna a shot." Legions of investors piled into Moderna stocks this year, drawn by its position as a frontrunner for the global hunt for the Divok jib jab. Hedge fund manager Patrick DeCourcy has been a believer in Moderna for nearly a decade. The pair worked together at billionaire activist Sir Chris Hon's TCI fund. Now, you see the link in now? In Time magazine, it said Moderna shares have quadrupled. One major shareholder in Moderna include AstraZeneca, Weapons That Kill PLC, and Thelemy Partners, the hedge fund of Rishi's old boss, Sir Chris Hon, and friends John Sheridan and Patrick DeCourcy, who was a former partner in the Children's Investment Fund where Rishi worked. Thelemy gained because Moderna's share value jumped from 4.7 billion to 32 billion.
Almost 33.
Yeah, almost. I bet they had together somewhere. But anyway, according to .gov, our corrupt UK government has now secured 7 million doses of Moderna jib jab, which will be available in the spring of 2021. So that was a Time magazine article. Sunak's investments are held in a blind trust. Now, MPs hold their investments in a blind trust. So what it basically means is their investments, they can't see them and they can't tell anybody to sell them. Of course it does. In a Guardian story in 2020, it said he set them up 18 months ago, which was just before the nonsense started. A blind trust means MPs do not have to disclose what investments they have or the amounts of profits the investments make. They apparently are not in control of them and don't have any say who is. Anybody believe that?
Blind trust.
Sunak's spokesperson refused to comment, but a Treasury source said blind management arrangements are long-standing mechanisms for protecting ministers in the handling of their interests. They ensure ministers are not involved in any of the decisions on the management, acquisition, or disposal of items in the arrangement. Register of members' financial interest as at 4th of October 2021, Rishi had land and property portfolio value of over 100,000, giving rental income of over 10,000 a year. So this is in his name, bear in mind. He and his wife, though, are worth literally hundreds of millions of pounds and own property worth tens of millions, or his wife does. So when he needed help, who did Sunak call for advice? He called his banking and hedge fund colleagues last year as the government grappled with the economic impact of the pandemic, the Times of London reported. Sunak called John Sheridan, a partner in London-based hedge fund Felony Partners, to help the Treasury, the newspaper said. The pair worked together at billionaire activist Sir Chris Horn's TCI fund, along with Patrick de Courcy at Felony. Treasury officials were asked to pass public information to Sheridan so he could build a financial model for the government's business loan program. The Times said, citing unnamed sources, you can't make this stuff up, can you? So these are guys, right?
This is a joke, mate. I can't believe it.
Yeah, this is the guy that invested in Moderna shares and other stuff. Bear in mind, so Chris Horn's involved, and he's now working for the government, telling the Chancellor, the Reichs Chancellor, where he's got to give his money and get it from, where he's borrowing it from. It's frightening, really. BBC chairman, current chairman, Sir Richard Sharp, another former Goldman Sachs group, this is where we come to that mentor and watcher, and former boss of Sunak, has also been appointed to advise the Treasury. These are the people that are advising the government during the time. These are, I mean, we spoke about this before, the parasitical vampires that suck the blood out of the world. You know, we're expected to believe that Sunak, Patrick de Courcy, John Sheridan, BBC chairman Richard Sharp, who started Felony Partners, have got interest in Moderna, but Sunak hasn't. Are you telling me that Sunak sold all his shares in Moderna, in that blind trust?
Not
he doesn't even know if he has. He doesn't even know if he has. He doesn't know if he has. Felony are a private investment company. Interestingly, recently, though, Moderna lost 18%. I think somebody was short in it. So I think it lost 18% of its value in one go. Picture 19, or next one after that, I think, unless you've got another meme. That's Richard Sharp. Nice looking guy, isn't it?
Oh, look at his eyes.
BBC chairman.
Reminds me a bit like Soros.
He's got Soros eyes. He has got Soros eyes, you're right, yeah. Empty eyes. With that horrible grey pallor, yeah. His father was Baron Sharp of Sharp of Grimsdyke, who was chairman of Cable and Wireless as well. That comes back to that nepotism. His twin sister, Dame Victoria Sharp, is president of the Queen's Bench Division of the High Court of England and Wales. Of course she is. In 1978, he earned a degree from Christ Church, Oxford University. Sharp has been BBC chairman since February 2021. Sharp worked for JP Morgan for 8 years. Then he worked for Goldman Sachs for 23 years, rising to chairman and its principal investment business manager in Europe before leaving in 2007. He was Rishi Sunak's boss and mentor when they both worked for Goldman Sachs. And he was an advisor also to Boris Johnson when he was mayor of London, and acted as an unpaid advisor, of course he did, to Sunak's UK economic response to the pandemic.
And now he's the chairman of the BBC.
Now he's the chairman of the BBC.
Of course he is.
It makes perfect sense, comrade.
He went on
it's
a
a
really
natural
hard
progression, guys.
Yeah, he went on a really. He had to obviously. He answered an advert for the BBC chairman job and went for an interview.
Turned up with his briefcase, looking all smart.
Yeah.
Handed the CEO over.
We're looking for someone we can trust.
It's Sharp in 2018 joined property investment company Roundshield Partners, where he was a senior member until February 2021. Roundshield advised and managed a fund that provided a £50 million loan to Carridon, which had been accused of cramming homeless and low-income families into former office blocks. It was revealed that not only had he donated more than £400,000 to the Conservative Party, but it had also formerly was a director of the Centre for Policy Studies, a think tank with historical links to the Conservative Party, which is where Sunak worked as well. So I wonder how he got that job. Critics have pointed out that a person who holds such a position as that of BBC chairman should be politically impartial. No shit. The appointment followed that of Tim Davie, who was also a Conservative Party councillor, to the role of Director General of the BBC. So all this left-wing BBC nonsense is nonsense, isn't it?
Ultimate propaganda channel.
Yeah. Richard Sharp is married to Victoria Hull, an American and fellow Goldman Sachs banker. In 2008, the couple who live in Kensington had an estimated net worth of 500 million. Sharp has given more than 400,000 to the Conservative Party. Sharp is a fund investor, BBC chairman, government advisor, and mentor.
Not a journalist.
He's not a journalist this time, no. I suppose he's a BBC chairman.
Basically, if you work for Goldman Sachs as a high-level banker, you can just do anything. You can become chairman of the BBC. You can become a politician.
Yeah,
just doesn't matter.
You could be the next Jimmy Savile.
Or Steve Coogan.
Yeah,
you could be the next Steve Coogan.
That
but also, it was mentors don't exist in our world, do they? It's not even a terminology that exists. Who's your mentor, Dom?
Well, I didn't have one, and that was the fact, innit? You don't have one. You drag yourself out of wherever you come from and try your hardest, I suppose. But these people all have these people behind them. It seems to be greasing the tracks. There's always mentors, one or two of them.
Biographers.
Yeah.
They're just basically the Rothschild frontmen.
Well, you look at him there. He looks like, I don't know. You just don't meet people like that. I've met people in business like that, and they'll look straight through you, and they talk to you with a smile, and they're on to the next thing. They don't care. Next picture, please, Lance.
Okay.
This is the freak. This guy's another one. Look at his eyes. Yeah. This is Sir Chris Hon. He was involved in the biggest divorce settlement.
To Tony Blair.
He looks like him, doesn't he?
Yeah, there's a similarity between Alan Partridge, Tony Blair, and this guy.
He looks a bit like Vladimir Klitschko as well.
Yeah, he does look like Vladimir Klitschko, a man of many faces. But this guy is an activist investor, apparently, and he was involved in the biggest divorce. I think it was about 400 million. His divorce in British history. He owns the Children's Investment Fund Management, and he's called Sir Chris Hon. And just because it has children in the name doesn't mean it's about kids. In fact, my view is it's quite sinister. It's an investment company, plain and simple. Sunak apparently was a partner at this company, earning millions in these investments, from these investments. Rishi Sunak's old boss, Chris Hon, came from, again, humble beginnings, but apparently still went to Harvard.
Of course he did.
Yeah, that doesn't mean humble beginnings to me, really. After graduating, On worked for the private equity company Apex Partners. They're another interesting company. And then he went to work for Perry Capital, a hedge fund on Wall Street. He was head of Perry's London operations in his time, and he earned an estimated 75 million from that in the 1990s. In 2003, he set up his own hedge fund, the Children's Investment Fund, and donated regularly to a connected charitable fund called the Children's Investment Fund Foundation, which was run by his ex-wife.
There's always a foundation in there.
There's always a foundation. The formula involved giving 0.5% of the fund's assets each year to the foundation. Yeah? From the returns of the investments. And 11% of the profits. It is reported that Hon established the formulatic charitable link in order to motivate himself. And if you believe that, that's more like a tax saving. That's why when you see Bill Gates, when they say he's worth 100 billion, but he's got 60 billion in a foundation. So by law, he isn't worth 100 billion anymore. It's still worth a lot. He's worth 40 billion. Yeah,
because Bill Gates gave all his money away to charity.
Yeah,
no,
but,
he didn't.
Well, exactly. But he has got access to it because he's probably on the board of the partners or whatever you want to call them, administrators.
People in charge,
a lot of people would say that. A lot of people say that none of that money's really theirs.
It doesn't have to be though, does it?
No, they're just puppets, or they're just front men that are in charge of moving that money around on behalf of the owners. You know,
that's right. Because they're not really the people, are they? Because people say Bezos is the richest man or Musk, but in reality,
doesn't it belong to the banks?
Well, exactly. You just hit the nail on the head. It goes back to the house. House wins every time, don't they? The casino wins, and that's where it goes back to. The Children's Investment Fund Management is a London-based hedge fund. It was set up in 2003. TCI makes investments globally, and it has $27.1 billion worth of assets under management. It's a holding company. Its holding company is TCI Management Limited, based in the Cayman Islands. Another tax evading.
Surprise.
Yeah. It has an endowment with the foundation of 6.65 billion. It is worth noting that Sir Chris Hon has donated 200,000 personally through the foundation to Extinction Rebellion. So he funds Extinction Rebellion. He's one of the players behind those idiots sitting on motorway, yeah, and the Insulate Britain crew, because that's a spin-off, isn't it? As of 2014, Hon has given over $4.5 billion of his money to the foundation, according to Forbes Billionaires list. According to Forbes Billionaires list, he's worth $5 billion, but he's given 4.5 away. So again, it doesn't make none of that makes sense.
Generous of him.
Yeah, exactly. He hasn't given it away. It's just nonsense, isn't it? As we come on to a bit later on with another, Honor has become an outspoken advocate of urgent action on the climate crisis. So here he is again pushing this nonsense, and a prolific contributor to the cause. So he's not giving away anything really. He hasn't given away anything, and he's classed as some sort of hero by giving away 4.5 billion of his money. This is
really he's just hidden it.
He just put it in a tax friendly Cayman Islands bank vault.
Put it in his biscuit tin.
Exactly.
It's like Gates so far. They banded these numbers around billion here, and we gave $1 billion just to make us all go, "Oh my god, you're so brilliant!" It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You know,
because we can't even compute $1 billion.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, next picture, please, Lance. This is how much he earns, I think, if it's next one. Yeah. So the reclusive hedge fund guy who gave all his money away, Chris Hon, 54, paid himself £940,000 a day to rake in 343 million last year in salary.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, this guy is not thinking of the children in Africa. I think we can safely say that.
Imagine the quality of wine you could buy for that much money.
I was about to say how many starving children in Africa you could feed for that much money, but you by saying wine. Yeah,
who the fuck needs that much money anyway?
I know, it's madness, isn't it?
Well, it goes back to elite control, isn't it? They're looking after it for someone else who control them. They've signed that contract, haven't they? That 4-season contract.
It's also it's all a hierarchical scheme.
They're almost just like a mule, really, just to float that much.
Yeah,
that much energy.
But he hasn't got a rocket.
He hasn't got a rocket. He hasn't got a phallic symbol with a firework under it.
Yeah. No, only the best mules can afford rockets.
They always put all this stuff down to one face or one name, even like with Boris Johnson or whoever's in power. And tonight, Boris Johnson's thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow about, the lockdowns or whatever. He's never down to one person, is it? Bezos isn't one person, is it? He's a face with a massive thing behind him.
Yeah.
Bill Gates is not. He's a face with a massive thing behind him. But they make us believe that it's all down to this one guy making these decisions while he's up late, drinking coffee.
It's not his. It's his team. It's their team.
It's his team. Yeah,
it's just bollocks.
Yeah, and the family or the faction of the owners that they represent.
And they'll have. Don't forget that they'll all have their lawyers, different types of lawyers present. They'll have people like psychologists and all that kind of shit. Yeah.
Everything.
Going back to the nepotism thing with Bill Gates, when I looked into Bill Gates doing something on him, I mean, a lot of it's already been done, but I found it was his actual mother, Mary Gates. Her father was part of the Federal Reserve.
She was a clout, wasn't she?
She was the woman. She sat on the boards of banks and stuff. He worked. So Bill Gates and I know his father was part of Planned Parenthood and Rockefeller and that. But the link really is his mother.
Generally happens that though, doesn't it, Dom?
Yeah, it does. A lot of the times, it's always the female
married into
version.
it. Married into it. So you've got a guy who's after some massive clout and power, and he marries into more clout and power, and then he produces a child, and pushes them forward.
Yeah. So it was the mother that had all the power. And I think next picture. I think Lance.
Okay.
I feel like Lance is at the back with a projector, you know, when you're
yeah. Shine a light on it. Yeah.
I'm just the projector boy.
This is the foundation. And first thing that struck me was the colour of the people on this foundation. Because, again, it's a theme always. We're helping the poor people, but they always got brown faces, or even Africa or India or somewhere like that. Yeah. They're helping these people. The Children's Investment Fund Foundation, if that's not sinister, I don't know what it is, but derives its name from the charitable foundation. It's an example of venture philanthropy. Yeah. And the venture philanthropy is a type of impact investment that takes concepts and techniques from venture capitalism, finance, and business management and applies them to achieving philanthropic. I'll get my tongue out. Philanthropic. Yeah, that one. Goals. The term was first used, wait for it, in 1969 by John D. Rockefeller III to describe an imaginative and risk-taking approach to philanthropy that may be undertaken by charitable organisations. That's who Stanley Johnson worked for in the 60s and sold his soul and got Boris on that road. So you've got, this is a side note, but I think it sort of adds up to where these things go. They're going into these countries and offering these people help with health and food and things like that when they didn't really need it in the first place. It's only because we've wrecked the country that they needed any sort of help anyway. And the help never goes to them anyway, let's face it, otherwise it'd have been sorted out by now. They've pumped absolute billions into there just to buy all their natural resources, haven't they?
Well, like Master Lee says, what's been fixed with all the experts and all the money in the last at least 33 years?
All the billions pumped into the developing world, what's been fixed?
Nothing.
All the experts, all the science, trust the science guys, remember that?
Yeah, always. Yeah, Band-Aid, yeah. Trust the Band-Aid.
Yeah, so, thing, even the name, put a Band-Aid on it. Band-Aid doesn't fix anything.
I was just thinking the exact same thing when I said it, actually.
Yeah. Highlights from SIF's portfolio include, so this is their sort of what they want to do. This is who Sunak worked for. SIF focuses on improving, SIF is the Children Investment Foundation Fund, improving the lives of, SIF, you know. While we've been on, somebody sent me a text, you know that firm that that woman worked for? It was when the biotech firm that Pfizer bought for $810 million was called Thea Archon. Yeah, that basically their Archon.
Thea Archon.
Yeah, it was. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it looks like Thea Archon. And somebody's telling me
in the middle of this, we've had Archons, Thelema, and now Sif.
Yeah. And anyway, so SIF focuses on improving the lives of children living in poverty in developing countries. They haven't developed right quick over the last 50 years and has grown to be one of the largest charities in the United Kingdom with an endowment of 5.2 billion. SIF's founder, Sir Chris Hon, has donated 3 million to support the production rollout of 100 advanced nonsense 19 testing machines across Britain.
Well, hang on a minute. Testing machines? Is that...
Yeah, so the DIVC testing machines, data capturing DIVC testing machines, he's one of them behind all the testing.
I don't want to be funny, but right at the beginning of all this nonsense, I remember us talking about there'll be a thing where you put your hand on it, it goes... And then
well, that's what he's got. If you look at what they're doing, a new rapid diagnostic test for 91 DIVC, developed by University of Cambridge, trust the scientists, spin-out company, and capable of diagnosing the infection in under 90 minutes, is being developed by Cambridge hospitals ahead of being launched in the hospitals nationwide.
Do you literally put your hand on it, do you reckon?
I reckon. I
reckon you do, don't you?
Yeah. You need to go to their website.
You want it to be that, don't you, Chris? You want this.
Yeah. Well, I just believe it will be. I just think because we've seen it in science fiction and video games and everything for years that you have to do that to get through the gate, if you like.
So
I can't help but think that's where it'll be.
My mate, the wig-wearing David Beckham, announced that the Children's Investment Foundation, along with UNICEF, child nabbers, have invested 25 million in the HPV jib jab for African people. Hon agreed to donate $500 million, so he ain't got any money left, so I don't know what he's doing, to climate action over the next 5 years at the Global Action Summit. In 2013, SIF committed a further 787 million over 7 years to tackle malnutrition. This was part of a total pledge of 4.1 billion towards reducing malnutrition announced at the Nutrition for Growth Summit in London. Where did they come up with these?
Nutrition for growth.
Nutrition for growth.
Where did they come up from this endless supply of money? It's like, I'll put 500 million here. It's like
that's what I mean.
I say when people try to tell me when I get to 91 psyops all about money, I'm like, it's not all about money. They've got so much money. No.
It's about a bottomless pit.
Money's for us to go. Growth. Money's for us to go wow about.
Yeah. Money's our religion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they own money. They don't need money. In 2012, SIF was one of the signatories of the London Declaration on Neglected Tropical Diseases. World Health Organization inspired collaborative disease eradication program. Every time I see that word, I got this Nazi swastika in my head. Eradication program of 10 neglected tropical diseases. SIF expanded its commitment to deworming, which has so far delivered 1.8 billion treatments for parasitic worm infections. That's interesting.
Produce 1.8 million parasitic worm infections.
Yeah, probably. Because they've been jib-jabbing them with something.
Reverse it. That's the truth.
Yeah, we've literally given them all worms, basically.
Also, SIF Pushers Arm Spears in 2020 invested 25 million to protect adolescent girls from a life-threatening virus by giving girls giving them the HPV jib jab. They even fund the Clintons. The Clinton Foundation lists SIF among 7 organizations which it's received more than $25 million.
Wow.
Exactly. This is another NGO who's fighting the same illnesses that no matter how much money's thrown in, never seem to go away. They only seem to get worse. HIV, climate change are examples. Helping people in Africa, India, etc. How have these people managed to live for thousands of years without any help? I could go on, but you get my drift. SIF is also partnered with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation for testing HIV in Africa. Hon was appointed Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael and St. George in 2014 for services to philanthropy and international development.
Philanthropy.
Yeah.
God.
That is the same knighthood that our friend Schwab, Gates and Kissinger got.
Really?
Yeah. Same one.
That's alarm bells ringing there.
The Order of St. Michael and St. George. So
Knight Commander even just sounds
Knight Commander. Yeah. On is another pusher of the Great Reset, education, nutrition, and medicines for poor brown people everywhere. He's also pushing the global climate warming change mantra through Extinction Rebellion. So these are who Sunak is mentored with, paid for by, watched, whatever we want to call it.
Signed up.
Signed up.
Extinction Rebellion wouldn't want to think that they're funded by people like this, would they? If you told them that.
Yeah, right.
Like,
well, that's what I mean. They haven't got a clue, have they?
Because they're essentially like they're all what they would describe as like sort of like right-wing Tory oligarchs.
Most of them are like grey-haired, gilet-wearing, Waitrose shopping people, aren't they?
You shop at Waitrose?
No, but it's just round the corner. I've got no choice. I don't want
Shut up.
I don't have no Asda.
There's always a choice, Chris.
Yeah.
you could always go round the corner. Asda's about 2 miles away.
You could always go to Tesco's. Haven't you seen their new advert?
I refuse to go to Tesco's from now on.
So Tesco's is off the menu. Sainsbury's is off the menu.
Yeah, we're going to be eating grass. So next, I'm going to come on to I think next picture, Lee. That's the guy with mad dog bollock eyes.
Dodgy teeth.
Yeah, it's called Nagavara Romario Naraya Murte, CBE.
So
this guy's got a CBE.
That,
Pardon?
I missed that, mate. Could you repeat that, mate?
Not in a million years. It's called Narayana Murthy, CBE. Yeah,
everyone calls him N.
Yeah. NR. So for Sunak, it doesn't stop here or there. It gets much, much deeper when we look at who his wife's father is. Narayana Murthy is another mate of Bill Gates. In fact, they actually call him the Bill Gates of India. That's what they call him.
Nice. The Indian Bill
Would you
Gates.
actually want to be called that? The Bill Gates.
Does that mean he comes over here jabbing white people?
Yeah. Comes over here giving experimental medicine to white kids.
Murthy is an Indian billionaire and one of the founders of Infosys, and has been the chairman, chief executive officer, president, and chief mentor of there's that word again, of the company before retiring and taking the title as chairman. As of 2021, his net worth is $4.3 billion. So just to reiterate, Murthy is Sunak's father-in-law. Murthy is an independent director of the core board of HSBC and has been a director of the boards of the DBS Bank, Unilever, ICICI Bank. The parent company was formed in a joint venture with the World Bank, and NDTV. He's also a member of the advisory boards and councils of several balls. That sounds better,
Freudian
doesn't it?
slip.
Yeah, Freudian slip. Yeah, a good one though. And several educational and philanthropic institutions, including Cornell University, the Ford Foundation, and the UN Foundation. And he's a trustee of the Rhodes Trust.
I don't mean to be funny, Fire, but if you look at that guy, do you really think he's managed to accrue $4.3 billion?
Of course he has.
He looks as mad as a bag of frogs, he does.
Yeah, he is. And he's also
you think about it, to get that much money, you've got to be pretty insane.
Yeah. Got to be out there.
Well, to do what he's doing with it, you've got to be insane. I haven't met one of these guys or done any research on him who seems to be doing anything nice with the money.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Tends to be the trend.
They cover it in niceness, but it's generally pretty horrific, isn't it?
Yeah. He's also chairman of the governing board of Public Health Foundation of India. He's on the Asia Pacific Advisory Board of British Telecommunication, or BT. In 2005, he co-chaired the World Economic Forum in Davos.
Of course he did. He co-chaired it.
He co-chaired it.
This dude's up there.
Yeah. Murthy
he's literally up there with Schwab.
Bill Gates is boss in there.
Waving nanotech around.
Murthy has been given a CBE of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Sunak's mother-in-law and Murthy's wife, Sudha Murthy, is a social worker and author and does philanthropic work through the Infosys Foundation. Infosys Foundation has $500 million. There's a lot of money floating around here. The foundation provides vocational training to help the destitute to live with dignity and earn a livelihood, and partners with NGOs to support destitute children and women. The foundation has also donated medicines in addition to organising health camps in rural India.
Health camps. Yeah. I wonder if that's the same as Australia's.
God. What does that mean? Health camps.
Is that what they're calling theirs over there, do you reckon?
Health camps. For them, health camps.
Yeah. When I put that in there, I thought, Jesus, that sounds awful. Health camps.
Health camp.
Anything with camp in it, it sounds weird.
Yeah.
What is a health camp like? Was it like a fat camp? We don't need
well,
those
this is the whole thing, is it? It can be construed as a few different things. It's a deliberate obfuscation.
You're unhealthy, so you go to a health camp.
Yeah. Talking of camps, we drove past that new prison today. Looks like it's nearly finished.
What, Wellingborough?
Yeah.
Oh, the one who tried to recruit you, Lee, on Facebook or
whatever. Yeah, we drove past it. It looks like
we might not need recruiting soon. We might be there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was actually speculating as to which room I was going to book. There's a nice one next to it's like a trench near the gate.
Yeah. We might not given us choice when you're in your orange jumpsuit.
See you there, boys.
Yeah.
I'm going to say we're laughing, but is that what's going to happen? We're going to end up being in there.
I think that they'll need a bigger wing.
Well, I think what we need to do, we need to see if there's been any movies. Well, actually, you got Prison Break.
Yeah.
Because they tell us everything through the television and movies.
Well, you've also got that Stanford University prison thing, haven't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, like a prison experiment program.
Yeah. The Murthys have two children.
In the 60s.
Rohan Murthy.
Oh right, yeah.
And Rohan Murthy is the son, and he's worth 347 million. So, and we can safely assume that Sunak's wife, Ashata Murthy, is worth the same holding in Infosys and associated businesses. So Sunak is actually worth, at the minute, 340 odd million dollars, undisclosed to Parliament. Next picture, please, Lance.
300.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts on that before we move on to Catamaran
I'm
Ventures?
just digesting it all
I
as
didn't know
it
how
comes.
deep this guy
here, Dom.
was.
Yeah, this guy is greasy.
And this I found interesting because this is sort of part of the link to Catamaran Ventures. Catamaran Ventures India is owned by his father-in-law, Narani Murthy, and his wife, Sudhana. Catamaran Ventures India is partnered with the cross-eyed phallic symbol rocket-owning Jeff Bezos with Amazon. So he was business partners of Amazon. So he's not only with Bill Gates, but he's with Amazon as well. And Catamaran owned Amazon India retailer Cloudtail, which itself was an offshoot of Catamaran Investment Prion Business Services Limited, founded in 2014 in partnership with Amazon. So he's not just mates with them, they are actual partners. Cloudtail, one of India's largest Amazon resellers, it actually going to cease to exist next year because of some sort of comes with a backdrop of the Indian government and its agencies tightening and launching multiple investigations on US e-commerce firms, alleging violations of foreign investment rules. So part of that business has had to close down. So it's not only involved in that, they're also involved in some dodgy deals behind the scenes as well. So now that businesses have been found out, Catamaran has been looking to buy another company that does the same thing called Udaan. And it's bought a 2 to 3% stake in it, which Udaan was valued at 3.2 billion. Udaan is also a partner of Amazon. So they're closing one business down and opening another up, which is a partner of Amazon. So they might as well not close the first one down.
So I mean, they're just moving him around.
Just moving money around, swishing money around for these bankers. Catamaran Ventures UK Limited. So there's two companies. Company number 08561424, if anyone wants to look it up, has one director, which is Slumdog's wife, Ashata Narayana Murthy. He was also a director, but resigned in 2015. His wife owns 75% of it. Rohan and Ashcroft, a brother and the sister, Murthy, is associated with Catamaran Ventures and a 127 million venture capital fund headed by a father. So that Catamaran Ventures has 127 million in it. In the Times, a story from October, it states, Ashkara Murthy, the wife of Rishi Sunak, lent her startup investment company 4.3 million last year, up from 1.7 million in 2017, as it slipped into the red. London-based Catamaran Ventures UK, founded by Sunak, the Chancellor, and Murthy in 2013, invests in startups with a view to future capital growth and income distributions. Catamaran is declared by Slumdog, and it owns quite a few companies like New and Lingwood Clothing, IMM, owner of Jamie Oliver Restaurants in India. It also owns gyms and childcare businesses. Catamaran's UK business partners are IMM, who are also owned by, or shareholders are, Oddie Asset Management. So IMM are owned by Catamaran and Oddie Asset Management. Robin Crispin William Oddie, known as Crispin, we can tell what school he went to. Yeah, went to. What else? Is a London-based hedge fund manager and founding partner of Oddie Asset Management. In April 2011, the firm had 6.5 to 7 billion under management, with Oddie personally running 4 billion worth of assets. That's dollars. According to the Sunday Times Rich List, him and his wife Nicola Pease, and that's quite an old family as well, is that, are worth 825 million. So these are Sunak's business partners. Educated at Harrow School, where else, and graduated at where else, Oxford. He's married to Nicola Pease, deputy chairman of J.O. Hambro Capital Management, and she's a member of the founding families of Barclays Bank. Her father, Sir Richard Pease, 3rd Baron, is a British bankster who was chairman of Yorkshire Bank and vice chairman of Barclays. and he was educated at Eton. And her brother, Sir Richard Pease, 4th Baron, is also working in banking. The other business partners is Hugh Sloan. So there's 3 businesses involved in them investments, and the other one's Hugh Sloan. Hugh Sloan is worth an estimated £185 million, and he made donations to the Conservative Party of £600,000 from 2004 to 2015. This is who the family who Slumdog is married into, and these are the people he's in business with. Thoughts, please.
He's done well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he landed on his feet for sure.
Is this the hard upbringing that he was talking about in the biography that you were, the tough beginnings and the struggle and the strive? It's like some dynasty criminal.
This is what
business.
I mean, right? This guy's so far removed from the common man he's supposed to represent. Like, honestly, he's got nothing. He's just another puppet, another fucking banking puppet.
What would it? Let them eat cake. It's one of them, isn't it?
Yeah. 100 million here, 500 million there.
Millions there, hedge fund manager. You know, how has this guy got anything in touch with the common man whatsoever? It's just.
So we're not far to go now, but there's some really interesting stuff. I think next picture is interesting. This takes it to another limit.
Wow.
That's the Infosys triangle. So the company that his father-in-law set up as that at their head office.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Enough said.
Enough said. We might as well close the doors now and go home.
Yeah.
What, you mean you haven't got your own pyramid? What kind of peasant are you?
Not a glass pyramid either, with mini pyramids of glass in it.
Why do they want to pop these up everywhere?
And behind that is a slum. So at the other side of that's a slum.
Right.
Just to rub it in their faces a little bit more.
Yeah. Infosys Limited is an Indian multinational information technology company that provides business consulting, information technology and outsourcing services. According to Forbes, it's the 602nd largest public company in the world, ranking, I think it ranks, I forget where it ranks at. Anyway, in the global Forbes list. On the 24th of August, Infosys became the 4th Indian company to cross $100 billion in market capitalization.
Wow.
So Sunak, although they're not worth 100 billion, when you think about 100 billion, you think about how much you can borrow against it. And it comes back to what Lee was saying. They're the managers. And so valuation means you can borrow more. So the higher the valuation, the more you can borrow against it. So that just keeps that cash slushing around. So generally, it's not really how much it's turning over or making profit. Sometimes it's how much you can borrow or how much traded stocks there are. Because that could be worth more.
Most millionaires don't actually have the millions that they claim. They just live off the money that they borrow.
Yes. Yeah. And you're right. There's nothing else to say. At their head office in India, they have a glass pyramid called the Infosys Pyramid in Bengaluru. Infosys is a key strategic partner with the World Economic Forum and has joined the forum's Divak Action platform to work closely with the forum and its stakeholders to strategize and work on initiatives to minimize the impact of 91 Divak on various strata of the society. This is who Sunak's father-in-law owns. So we've got to bear in mind that we've got a guy who's apparently running the money in Britain, and his father-in-law is hosting the World Economic Forum and part of the strategy behind how they're going to manage the situation.
Probably inviting Lord Schwab to his own pyramid.
And he's hiding out in his giant glass pyramid, yeah.
Do you think the film...
come to my pyramid, let's go
watching the blood moon under it. They're probably under it now.
Do you think the film Slumdog Millionaire was like predictive programming for the next Prime Minister of the UK?
Maybe. Andy, you said you'd look on... Have a look at see if get a picture of Slumdog Millionaire. I bet it looks like Rishi. I haven't looked either, but I bet there's a similarity. It's not a bad point, that is it?
Yeah, because I don't really.
Oh no way! It actually does.
Shut up!
It does. No shit.
Oh no! Copy that link and send it to me on private message.
Just ridiculous.
Oh my god! It looks just like him. Is that honestly the guy from Slumdog Millionaire?
Yes, mate. I'm telling you. This is just unreal.
Send it on there. Paste it there.
Incoming.
All right. Let me pull this across. So is this one here? It does.
More confirmation.
It looks just like him. There it is.
That was that was a big production as well, wasn't
it? Oh shit! Wrong page. What's going on here? Let me get rid of that. Yeah. So yeah, it does. It just looks like him when he was a kid. Yeah. So this is the actor. Oh, look at that photo there.
Yeah, that photo does. Yeah.
There you go. He is Slumdog Millionaire.
Why can't we be wrong?
Yeah,
please, God. I pray every day.
Infinite
to make us
creator,
wrong.
Please help us be more wrong.
Yeah. Do you know a lot of these people as well? I mean, I've got a lazy left eye, but a lot of these people that seem to get into power have something wrong visually.
Fucking Bell's palsy, mate.
Yeah.
Pfizer face.
Probably right.
P is for Pfizer face.
Yeah. So moving on, as far back as November 13th, 2002, Bill Gates planted a tree to mark his visit to Infosys. I don't know what tree it was, but that would be an interesting one. Accompanied by Infosys...
Probably dead by now.
It probably is, yeah. Accompanied by Infosys top management, including his Sunak's father-in-law. He toured the 52-acre site, making a stop at the Infosys Microsoft Enterprise Architecture Lab. So there's no links there. The Infosys lab, Microsoft lab, was set up when the two companies entered an alliance. BlackRock, a New York-based investment management company, has announced a 5.7 stake in Indian IT service Infosys.
Oh, wow.
Also, Vanguard announced a major strategic partnership in 2020.
Oh, do you know who else they had shares in? Metadata.
Metadata. They had shares in Metadata. They got shares in Weapon That Kills, AstraZeneca, Moderna, all of them. Johnson & Johnson.
Should we give up now? Should we just surrender?
Yeah, I think we ought to just put his hands up, Lee. Akshata Murthy, Sunak's wife, has a £430 million worth of shares in Infosys, as I said earlier. Infosys have UK government contracts worth 22 million. You can't make this shit up, can you? If you really wanted to make this up, so blatantly obvious that you can't.
The Soviet Union is more vast than we could possibly comprehend, comrade.
Deep, man. It's deep. So we're sort of coming to the last person now. Picture next one. I think it's the last one. And this guy. This is Sunak's father-in-law's business partner. Nice looking chap, innit? Friendly guy.
Indian Jimmy Savile.
Yeah.
Had the Indian Bill Gates, now we've got the Indian Jimmy Savile.
Yeah. Mr. Fix It himself of India. Nandan Nilekani is called. Nandan Nilekani. I think I've got a video. I've got a video of him.
I have got a video of him, yeah.
Do you want to play it now? Or
Yeah.
We'll have a breather. Play. This is Nandan Nilekani with his friend.
My friend Nandan Nilekani is one of India's best-known entrepreneurs. He led the creation of the world's largest biometric ID system. Now, he's working to promote his platform to improve the lives of the world's poorest people.
There are more than 1 billion people around the world who don't have any kind of ID. You can't do anything in life without an ID because people are mobile, they're migrant, and wherever they go, whether they want a job or whether they want to board a train or whether they want to get a bank account or get a mobile connection, if the person has no way of proving who they are, then they just won't get access to those services. So the challenge we had was, how do we give 1 billion people, many of whom don't have birth certificates, how do we give them ID? Aadhaar is the world's largest digital ID system and entirely based using biometrics to ensure uniqueness. Our enrollment was very simple: name, address, date of birth, sex, email ID and phone number if you wish, and the biometrics, the 10 fingerprints of both the hands, the iris of both the eyes, and a photograph. And in a few days, he would get his Aadhaar number in the mail. And that's how 1 billion people got their IDs. You could use it when you're boarding a train or boarding an airline. If you want to open a bank account or if you want to get a new mobile connection, you could use it to get your entitlements. All these things I would use ID for. Let me talk about some of the opposition that the Aadhaar project faced. There was a huge argument on privacy. Cyber security, data breaches are important issues. All these debates have actually led to India putting in the checks and balances to ensure that it's used properly and wisely. So it's not data for companies to commercialize, it's not data for governments to do surveillance, but data in the hands of individuals to empower their own lives. In the developing countries, people will be data rich before they're economically well off. Therefore, can we think of empowering people with their own data? This is very, very critical for development because we have billions of people in emerging countries who have to be given a chance to participate and have access to opportunity. My view is that if everyone has a bank account, everyone has a mobile phone, and everyone has a digital ID, then they can do magic in their lives.
Then they can do magic in their lives.
Special Bill Gates magic.
Bill Gates magic and Jimmy Savile of India, or as somebody put on, Jay Leno of India.
George Soros of India.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting that they had the Get Carter theme tune there, which is about, you know, the film, the Michael Caine film, Get Carter. That was like a reduxed version of that theme tune where it's about pedophiles.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I'm not saying it means anything, but it's.
It all means
it's just a coincidence.
It all means everything. The amount of times me and Adam say that,
guys.
Was that Bill Gates narrating?
Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine having all that money and you sound like Kermit the Frog.
I know. Yeah, I know.
He does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. He's so creepy. He's the creepiest person out of everybody.
I mean, look what they've done there with India. They've basically biometricked everybody, fingerprints, eyes, everything.
Yeah, 1 billion people.
I believe I saw the hand thing fight that I was talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Class. I like that one. And this is the business partner of Sunak's father-in-law. Or them two set up Infosys, and he's worth. Who's a friend of Gates, $3.3 billion. And they 33. Announced, Gates and him, and 33, formation of another NGO, Co-Impact. It's a group of the world's leading philanthropists, including Infosys chairman Nandan Nilekani, announced formation of the Co-Impact, a new global model for collaborative philanthropy and social change at scale.
Sorry, it will invest. Did you say Co-Impact?
Co-Impact.
Yeah, Co-Impact.
Yeah. Co-Impact.
Right.
Yeah. Co-Impact. It will invest $500 million in 3 critical areas: health, education, and economic opportunity, to improve the lives of underdeserved populations across the developing world. In addition to its role, I wonder when the developing world is going to be developed. In addition to its role as a core partner, the Rockefeller Foundation has incubated Co-Impact and will provide staff significant operating funds and ongoing strategic support, it said, on the RockefellerFoundation.org. It says, Co-Impact is a global model for collaborative philanthropy and social change at scale. The Rockefeller Foundation is a core partner in this effort, along with Richard Chandler, the ELMA Foundation, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, Rouhani and Nandan Nilekani, Mackenzie Scott, and Jeff Skoll. That's interesting, Jeff Skoll, when I come on to him in a minute. Together with a growing group of funding partners, 30 plus partners representing more than a dozen countries to date, we are committed to delivering large-scale sustainable change to underdeserved populations across the global south in the critical areas of health, education, as I said, and economics. This is what these people do, innit? They just go into countries and just basically rape them.
Yeah, they play God.
Devil elope.
You what, Lee?
Devil elope.
Yeah.
Developing.
Devil elope. Bloody hell. Devil elope. Yeah. One interesting guy that I found on this was one of the co-founders is a guy called Jeffrey Skoll. If you've never heard of him, Skoll. He was the founder of eBay. net worth 6.1 billion, apparently. He's a Canadian internet entrepreneur. And he also attended Stanford University, of course he did, where people shop. Where were people shopping during the lockdown? You know, has he got Amazon eBay, yeah, during the gulag? Skoll's other company, a film company called Participant, co-produced the film. Are you waiting for this? Contagion.
No.
Yes. To raise to raise awareness about the dangers posed by pandemics in the future. Skoll wanted the film to be scientifically sound and encourage funding of medical experts. In 2020, following the 91 Divot pandemic media coverage, it noted it was shocking in its accuracy. In January 2020, Skoll donated 20 million and an additional 100 million in April to fund the Skoll Foundation to combat 91 Divot.
That Contagion film, there was someone in it, and correct me if I'm wrong, someone in the comment section, they actually employed someone who was like a real person from the CDC or something, and they played themselves in it pretty much, and they made an announcement in the film which almost mirrored the announcement that they made in Divot. They were even wearing the same coloured shirt as they wore in the film.
Wow.
It was absolutely uncanny.
I think it was the first time you'd heard the word lockdown and social distancing in that film, I believe.
Yeah, predictive programming at the finest, I think.
I pointed this out to Dom at the time, at the beginning of all this nonsense, was that came out, I think it was 2009, and the same year, the first Planet of the Apes.
Wasn't it 11?
Sorry, 2011, I think.
Right. Yeah, 2011.
Like
and also the same year, the Planet of the Apes film first came out. You remember the first one? And if you remember in the first Planet of the Apes film, they had the, the map where it's the patient zero's here, and then it went zoom, zoom, it went all around the world. And I don't know, I just thought it was weird. Those two films came out the exact same year.
Patient Zero in Wuhan as well.
Yeah, and it started in Wuhan, yeah. And from a
no.
And if you think without and going even weirder, 9 years later, it happened, etc.
Wow.
And I always said to Dom, I think those two films came out that year, and they were covering every demographic of people, because Contagion was by I forgot his director, Summerfield. He's like an art house director. So you had the art house crowd covered, and then you had Planet of the Apes for the blockbuster crowd covered, and everyone had seen that stuff that year, if you know what I mean.
And everyone had probably already seen 12 Monkeys by then.
12 Monkeys, yeah. I watched a video the other day about Invasion. Do you remember that film Invasion? It was a remake of what do you call it? Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it had Daniel Craig in it and Nicole Kidman. Jesus, I watched the guy did a video about that. And the stuff in that, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, it was a shit film, but...
I might have to watch that.
Yeah, Invasion. Daniel Craig's in it. I think it was just after he made the first James Bond. So it was pretty hot. But the film kind of went under the radar and vanished. And it's a pretty shit film. But the stuff in there is beyond a
Daniel
doubt.
Craig film with aliens in it. Yeah, that's going to go under the radar, isn't it?
Yeah. Could you go back to that picture I had on of that Jimmy Savile, Indian Jimmy Savile? You see what it says there? We missed that bit. See what it says? We will have to vaccinate the whole planet.
Yeah.
You're going to have to watch that V word there, Don. Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
Everyone in the whole planet is going to the Britney Spears concert.
But that's exactly what Gates said as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So he said, we will after jib-jab the whole planet. The billionaire founder of Infosys is sitting in his own home office. This is a newspaper in Bangalore talking. This is what this thing on Infosys says, about the future of humanity. Effectively, we will have to jib-jab the entire planet, he says. So how do we reach everywhere? How do we make sure everyone is covered? This is about large-scale information management. Technology will have a supporting role. To tackle Divot, Nilakani, 65, 11, believes what will be needed is a global biometric ID system to handle the digital immunity certificates required to determine who has been jib-jabbed and who is at risk. He dismisses the view that the ID system called Aadhaar shows India is moving in the same direction as China in its use of tech for surveillance and social control. I don't think it's fair, he says. I would not compare them.
Well, that's your fucking opinion, mate.
Yeah.
Too bad. Hey, what was the name of it? Adar.
AADHAAR. Adar. It's a 12-digit unique identity number that can be obtained voluntarily by citizens of India, non-residents, passport holders of India, and resident foreign nationals who have spent over 182 days, read the numbers, in 12 months immediately preceding the date of application for enrolment. So they've covered 1.3 billion holders as of October 2021.
What do you think that was a test run for the devout passport?
Definitely. India's been used on it as
usual.
As that.
Yeah,
go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, I wrote some notes, I just wrote templates. It seems like what you've described, with this whole sort of dynasty that goes through Rishi Sunak, it's just like an Indian, what was it, franchise of the cabal.
Blueprint.
Rishi Sunak seems like some sort of Indian Tony Blair to me.
Yeah. He talks like him, doesn't he? He just talks like him a bit. Yeah.
He's definitely got Tony Blair vibes. And I also wrote down Stanford seems to be a bit like London School of Economics.
Yeah,
it's like one of those ones, isn't it?
A breeding ground.
A breeding ground, yeah.
But I mean, his father-in-law is coming up. His business partner or his ex-business partner, whatever you want to call it, the friends. Is coming up with the ID 2020 system, really, isn't it? That's already being used and talked about by Gates all the time. He's chairman also of the Unique Identity Authority of India. The nation's push to create a biometric ID scheme.
MasterCard is big on ID 2020 as well. I don't know if anyone noticed this week, it was announced that Amazon are dropping Visa credit cards.
Yeah, really? I did notice that, yeah.
But only Visa.
Right.
And I wonder if basically, I think that MasterCard seems to have the contract for the Great Reset. I think Visa are being pushed out.
Right. The Betamax VHS war.
Yeah. Because, one of the partners for ID 2020, along with Microsoft and the Rockefeller Foundation, is MasterCard. So it's like MasterCard is going to have the license for the biometric payment patch or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. The crypto
credits.
Yeah, the Coviot crypto credits.
Yeah.
There can be only one.
Yeah, there can only be one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there can't be a choice, can there?
Yeah.
Choices going.
Having MasterCard, Visa, American Express, that's so capitalist.
Someone sent me something.
There'll just be MasterCard.
Yeah,
and then they'll change their name to MetaCard.
That wouldn't even be a shock, would it? It wouldn't even be a shock.
No, it wouldn't be a shock at all.
No, I'm just waiting for that to happen, though.
I might be wrong, but I doubt it.
First time for
everything. When you think about when you look back at the start of this, where it was just a guy going to school and stuff like that, and all of a sudden you could just see his movement up. Everything's about an upward trajectory for these people, isn't it? No matter what. I mean, he don't come across like Johnson does, where he's lying and making stupid mistakes. This guy, he seems a bit more of a cool character, but it's still everything he's done is gone up. He's never had a step backwards.
He doesn't say anything for. He literally says
no. I know he's empty.
Well, I think what they're doing. I think what they're doing is they've got somebody like Johnson who is a bumbling buffoon. So people will be happy to have somebody whose appearance is a bit more slick.
Yeah, because you got to think about you had a George Bush before you had an Obama.
Yeah.
Because after George Bush, you someone that was going to be more eloquent, more slick, more articulate was instantly going to win people over when George Bush could barely string a sentence together at times, or at least he appeared he couldn't.
They've all got a different persona, which they're, they've been working on this for years. All their personas, all through their, up and coming before they get into their positions. Like I don't think Lord Potato Head Boris Johnson's bumbling persona is like his act. I think that's what he puts on.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
He deliberately, you know, the scruffy hair and he doesn't have his tie.
I also think
always
he's a
look
bit
that
of a,
smart, does he? And he was I
think he's a bit of a relic of a time gone by. I don't think after
Yeah.
the Great Reset you'll see characters like Boris Johnson come through anymore.
No.
It'll be more. Everyone will be like Rishi Sunak.
They'll be a bit slick, and
I do think he's playing a character though, because you can even see him in Parliament sometimes. He rubs his hair to make it stick up.